Hi, everybody. Matt Levesque is enjoying Cooperstown, New York with a bunch of Little League people. So here I am running the Gong Show this evening. It's August 17th, 2023. Welcome to the Town Council meeting. I have to announce that this meeting of the Barnstable Town Council is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20. I must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known. Seeing no one, I will toss this to Ann Quirk, Town Clerk, for a roll call vote.
Councilors Atzelis,
Yes.
Clark,
Here.
Cullum,
Here.
Cusack,
Present.
Rapgrassetti,
Present.
Levesque, Ludke,
Here.
Mendes,
Here.
Neary, Schnapp,
Here.
Shaughnessy,
Here.
Starr,
Here.
Steinhilber. We have quorum.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask Councillor Cusack to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And if Councillor Rapgrassetti could say a few words during the moment of silence, please.
Thank you. We'd like to offer this moment of silence for Cotuit resident Kathy Pina, who recently passed away. Kathy served on the Barnstable Recreation Commission for 35 years and was an avid supporter of the Barnstable Quarterback Club, and as a business owner was supportive of many town activities. We would also like to recognize the passing of J. Paul Lanza, who was the builder of the John F. Kennedy Memorial in 1966. In August of 2016, Mr. Lanza made a special visit from his home in Connecticut to share his firsthand knowledge of the construction of JFK Memorial with the Trust Fund Committee and DPW staff. Our deepest sympathies go out to the Pina and Lanza families.
Thank you very much. So at this time, we can open the floor for public comment. We'll take those in the room first, and then we'll do Zoom land. Is there anyone who'd like to speak tonight? Hello, how are you?
I'm great. How are
Great.
you?
Just please sign in if you haven't already.
I have. Vice President Cullum, members of Town Council, I hope you don't mind if I share the most recent data our group has on the extent of the opposition in Barnstable to Avangrid's plan to land offshore cables at Dowses Beach. First, however, I do apologize if you feel, as one of you just wrote in an email, that our group advocacy is nothing but apocryphal hypotheticals that can be entertained ad nauseum. We don't mean to be tiresome, but please understand that from our perspective, there is no pause in Avangrid's drumbeat at the community level to advance their project, despite their current lack of standing with the state. Radio and print ads run constantly, making what we believe are wildly inflated claims about the money they would give to Barnstable. Three-color glossy mailers ridiculing our reasonable objections by dismissing them as myths show up regularly in our mailboxes. They continue to advance the idea that the town's CWMP depends on the so-called Commonwealth Wind Project. Lately, over residents' objections, they are busily marking up our residential streets with paint to illustrate their plans to dig them up. Incessant open houses meant to relieve us of our anxiety only serve to amplify it. Of course, they continue to try to advance their proposal in various regulatory dockets, and our group responds with detailed filings each and every time. Anyway, this binder contains the names of thousands of individuals opposed to the proposed Dowses Beach cable landings and who have signed our informal, non-binding online and paper petitions. Every one of the 7 villages are represented here by full-time residents of our town. Of these, 41% live in Osterville, less than half, with Centerville, Hyannis, and Marston's Mills contributing together another 46% of the signatures. Significantly, our petition signing has been done mostly at Dowses Beach, indicating that this beach is indeed used by residents from throughout the town. As our group enters the second year of the fight against this project, our plan over the next several months is to expand our petitioning throughout the town of Barnstable. Any of you are more than welcome to examine this data. I'd be very happy to share it with you. As of this morning, we have 702 individuals on our email distribution lists, 1,020 loyal followers on our informational Facebook page, and many, many thousands of visits to our website. I regret that none of you were present at the Osterville Village Association's annual meeting last evening, where our group was asked to present an update on our efforts. You would have experienced the universal opposition to the Dowses Landings.
30 seconds.
Thank you, and heard the Vox Populi loud and clear. Residents feel very strongly that this precious place is not an appropriate site for electrical infrastructure of this magnitude. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Conley.
Good evening once again, everybody. Paul Phelan. I was here 3 months ago, and I'm just following up with some important information I have learned in the last 3 months. Did I see a astute town manager here? Is Mr. Ells here? He is, okay. So my aim is to, when I came here before you previous, was to close the airport and do a multi-use of construction there. And I cited life sciences, commercial, and light industrial. And the last thing I think I said was senior housing and affordable housing. But the affordable housing was the antenna, was the real barometer. I since have learned from the council that we have 1,000 units in the hopper, and we don't need housing currently, so we can take that right off the table. I'm willing to compromise. Also, I was told we don't want to flood that area, and I kind of agree with that. Why should we flood any area of Barnstable with housing, right? So I want to clear that up immediately. The next thing I'd like to clear up is that the response from some of the council as well. We need this airport because it's regional. I found out from the FAA it is not regional. They don't consider an airport regional unless there's 150 airplanes based there. They claim to have 40 up there. I've never seen more than 20, but the other 20 might be in hangars. So we are not regional. We are a commercial airport, which there are 5 in Cape Cod and the islands. So I hope we can use the word merge from now on. One thing I'd like to first address that really I think needs to be is when the Airport Commission stood before you a month ago. I was watching it from home, and I had a good chuckle when he said, we represent not only the airport, but every resident in Barnstable. And then I stopped chuckling when they called one of our best outspoken councilors. What was that word they used, Councilor Betty? Do you recall? It was
rogue or maverick.
That's
A
not how it
rogue and a
works.
maverick. Thank you.
We're not going back and forth, please. It's public comment. It's your time.
Oh, I apologize. Well, Councilor Nikos, I was told I could have a little extra time tonight by Chairman Levesque. Did he mention
He
that
did
to
not
you?
mention that to me.
All
so
right.
We'll give you
I'll
another
wrap
minute.
it up then.
Thank you.
I'll be succinct as possible. I have quite a few things I'll have to just skip over and tell you folks that, or suggest to you, that the airport's commissioner's grousing was very impolite, I feel. They are not going to, I don't think, ever muzzle our one of our top councilors here, Miss Councilor Betty LeDuc, is a 30-year Air Force veteran, mother of 4, and also an airline pilot. So I respectfully ask the council to finish up in closing that we consider a blue ribbon panel to study merging the airport, and we have some kind of air, land, and sea plan. There was a great article in the Boston Globe over the weekend. It was #1 all day Saturday, the #1 article read on the airport. And I hope you folks got to read it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Phelan. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Mary Ann Barboza. I don't know if I'm speaking loud enough, but y'all know I can. Okay, first off, people make comments about why low-income people or people who are struggling don't fill the audience. Well, I'll tell you, because most of them are working 2 and 3 jobs just to continue to live on the Cape, where they've been for generations on end. And so we need to do something about that too. But people need to understand, especially some of the rich people or people who don't care, need to not assume that low-income people are uneducated. Many of them have bachelors, some have masters, and there's several who are on their way to obtaining their masters, okay? Being poor is not the same as being uneducated. And for there's some good things about being 68 and being old, because you remember, I'm told you, I've been here for generations. Our families can go back to half the people here. And all the rich people, and I'm not going to say no names because some of them I actually like, they didn't get their wealth by humble means, okay? There's a whole lot of things we could talk about how they got their money. And if it was somebody that didn't look like them, they'd be under the jail. So don't pretend now that we're these good citizens and we need all these homes, okay? Wrong. And someone had the nerve to say to me the other day, and they got quite offended with my response. But it was like, well, when we give housing or when people move in, why do the young people commit these, well, stop. Commit what? So now you're going to, as always, in our society, we take the worst of us and make it represent all of us. They didn't like my response when I said to them, should I be afraid of every white male that he's going to be Jeffrey Dahmer and come and chop me up and eat me? Or is every white male going to go into the school and shoot up people? Okay? Or are they all going to be serial killers? So if we're going to try to play that game, let's play it all the way. And now, when it comes to the police, we have a very good rapport with the police. I love the chief, I forget his name. Baby, you know I forgot your name. But I love him, I do. And I love my Chief McDonald because he created it. They have an open door policy. Their job is to get the criminals off the street.
30 seconds.
I got you, but you know I lose my train of thought. Stop it. But my job is to make sure that they make it to the police station without having a road cop be the judge and jury. And because of our chief, with his open door policy, he makes sure of that too. And we are in the process of getting a community meeting with all the boards, because everyone wants to pass the buck on who can do whatever. So in our community meeting, we're going to have the people from licensing, the town council, all of them at this meeting. And this gentleman here, my last word, this gentleman here, I understand when he was talking about the airport. What y'all need to realize, back in the day, when people are coming here for the beauty of the Cape, that was a beauty for us. We were here. They destroyed it and took away for the housing by putting all this property, all this commercial property. And now we've got a zoning problem. Well, people are being forced off the Cape. Our kids can't live here because rent is $2,000, $3,000. We all may be working double jobs, but everything is going up. The rent's going up, but not our pay. So I swear to you, before we lose housing, I will start a campaign that every person in town get a tent and we live on the lawn of every rich person before I go away. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Ms. Barbosa. Anyone else here for public comment? Yes. Oh.
Would you like to go first? No, go ahead, baby. He's shy. I'll give him
Ms. Cheryl Powell to the mic.
Hi. If you could give me 30 seconds, I probably won't need it because I'm going to be very brief.
Did you sign in, Cheryl?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I forgot about that. Good evening. Nice to see everyone again. I think everybody on the town council and a lot of other people who know me here. So I'm here for three purposes. One is as a supporting member of the LCPC, where Ms. Penn will be presenting to you. I'm sure she'll do a fabulous job. But also,
Cheryl, I have to interrupt you to ask you to say your full name. Councilor Repker said she didn't. That you
Cheryl
didn't.
Powell.
There we go. You're off.
So that's fine. So also as chairman of the Human Services Committee, where you will have tonight a prospective member before you, is Sherry Kay, who I've been urging for quite some time to bring her expertise to help us, and she has agreed to do so. So she has applied. And also as chairman of the HHDC, the Hyannis Main Street and Waterfront Historic District Commission, where I serve on both with, thank you very much, it's a pleasure, where Kevin Matthews filled a vacancy, but he's only been on for a few months, so he's back before you for the renewed term. Again, he has already shown his value. So I'm here. It's not only a matter of, as chair, of doing the job, but also supporting the members and trying to get good people on, but also to support them publicly when their name comes forward for your consideration and decision. Thank you very much. I think I'm under time, but anyway, thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. Don't be shy. We're friendly. Come on.
Am I allowed to speak?
Yes, my name is Garrett Ruffin. I'm 64 years of age. I'm on Social Security disability. I've applied for Section 8 housing. And it's been 9 years, and I just got my housing certificate after 9 years. They're giving me 60 days with the option of extension to, I've been looking, I got a list, I got everything here. It's just, there's nothing. They give me $1,800 to find either 1 or 2 bedroom. All I'm saying is, I work at Stop and Shop. I've been there for 4 years, and I'm beyond asking for a handout. I just need some assistance. I get the certificate right here. It's on a time clicker, and I work. I'm close to being homeless, and I just don't understand how I waited for 9 years, but they give me 2 months to find a place. That's unconscionable. We're talking about Cape Cod, and we're getting to the end of summer. I just need. How long has your family been here? My family's been here. This building I went to school, it used to be a junior high. The building, TD Bank or the Cape Cod Mall, that was a Jack in the Box. That's how far I go back. I just need some assistance. I'm not asking, that's all. I'm not really good at speaking with people, but this is hard, and I waited too long to lose this. I'm on a time clicker, and it seems like they're setting me up to fail. That's how I feel. Thank you.
Can I ask you if you filled out your name and number on the thing so we can get in touch with you?
Right here?
Yeah, if you could.
Yes, ma'am.
I think there's a pen there. Yeah, thank you. And then counselors who have some intel could get in touch with you. It's a public record then for us. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else for public comment? I got to check Zoom land if there's no one else in the room.
Yes, we have Asia Graves. Ms. Graves, you have 3 minutes. You may unmute.
Hi, Asia. Welcome.
Hello. I wanted to attend in person, but it broke 2 toes, so I couldn't attend in person. But I wanted to attend this meeting because, again, I'm so glad to see members of the public coming this week for this meeting because housing is priority. I know that we are working on a variety of projects. I'm glad to hear Councilman Betty with the whole airport project, but we need immediate housing. I feel like we're at a point where we need to start creating those COVID-type housing, immediate housing, because there are too many of us that work too hard to live here, and we're struggling. When you have a Facebook group with almost 14,000 people struggling to find housing on the Cape, something needs to be done. A suggestion that I have Why can't we be like Boston? Boston has a list of all the apartments that are available that are affordable. Maybe we need to create that. Maybe we need to look at other businesses and say, hey, how are we going to serve our people? Let's expand our public transit so that it can go later. I'm sure many of the town councils and people in the community that have money, they drive. So when you drive, you don't realize buses stop at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening. I feel like we need to step up and actually do things that are going to benefit the regular working people here, as well as we need to make sure that we let people know of all of the resources. The guy that spoke before me, as well as I've met Miss Barbosa in town, she's amazing. I feel like we need to start having regular, everyday people be a part of committees, start speaking more and getting things done with the town council. I'm not here to be argumentative, but again, housing should be top priority. I don't think we need to have golf committees or any of that. Housing needs to be priority. Without, I feel like that should become before the environmental policies, housing before anything, because if we don't have adequate housing for our population to work here, there will be no one to keep the solar and windmills up. When the average population is struggling to afford a bedroom, we have a problem. We need to make building and creating housing. Yes, I know they're saying we've reached our 1,000 units. We need it for affordability. But guess what? We need more than 1,000 affordable units. We can't just push the problem off on other counties if the people are here. We have to keep building. I feel like we should stop building all luxury condominiums and focus exclusively on affordable based priorities for now. At least maybe a year. Maybe say we're not going to build any more country clubs, golf clubs. Maybe put tax liens on second and third homes within the region. We need to do something now. We can't say, let's wait and do a study on it. It needs to be now and immediate. And I want to know what we can do for the immediate needs, not needs of people right in 2 or 3 years. I've seen Facebook messages and others from people in town saying that they're going to be living in their car within 2 weeks because they cannot find housing. What are we going to do? Can we, since the population here needs housing, can we all go stay on the military base too? Please, we have to do something. Time sensitive. It's not like we can wait 5 years, 2 years, 3 years. Those people who are saying we can wait, they have housing. If that's the case, everyone who has housing that's saying let's wait and do more research studies, can I come live with you? I mean, can everyone in town that needs help come and live with you? That's my final piece.
Thank you very much it's nice to see your face again. I appreciate you coming by.
Next meeting.
Excellent. Good. I hope your toes feel better. Yep. Anyone else for public comment in Zoom land? It looked
There
like
is
that
no
was it.
additional public comment.
Okay. So now it's time for councilor response to public comment. I'll start to my left. Councilor, did you have something? Yeah, Councilor Shaughnessy?
The only thing I don't like about the directional calling on is it doesn't really give you time to collect your thoughts.
Got to move quick. Come on.
I want to say to Suzanne, thank you for your continued updates, but more importantly, thank you for your advocacy on behalf of all of us. Mr. Phelan, I think as you heard here tonight, we absolutely have a housing shortage, and it's not just Barnstable County, it's nationwide. And I want to say with regard to the gentleman, I didn't catch your name, who waited 9 years to get your voucher and 60 days to use it. I just ran into another family this week. They waited 6 years to get their voucher, and it expired because they could not, there was nothing to be found to rent within the 60-day period. I mean, it sounds absurd just on its face that you wait 9 years and then you've got 60 days to lock it in, and particularly when that voucher arrives in the middle of the summer. Cheryl, I want to thank you so much for coming in. I think it is important as chair of committee that you come in and support your fellow volunteers who are applying to serve on town committees. I think it's important for them to know that they're doing a great job. Marianne, as always, thank you for your powerful and passionate voice on behalf of the community.
And I think that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Shaughnessy. Councillor Atzlis?
Garrett, thank you for speaking tonight. You certainly brought something to light that I wasn't aware of. In talking to Councillor Mendes, this isn't the first time. I guess some of us have heard this. So it's just unacceptable. It took 9 years, and now you have 60 days. After this meeting tomorrow, I know some of us are going to try to figure out what we can do to address this, because it's not right. And I agree with you 100%. And to have 60 days is just, again, it's absurd. So I just want to thank you for bringing that to our attention. And as a matter of fact, you speak very well, and you speak better than a lot of us up here. So thank you.
Councillor Mendes?
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I know Garrett, and of course I know the Barbozas, and everything Marianne said is absolutely true. From the people with money here, how they got it, it's absolutely true, and we all know who they are. From the housing issue. And the thing about it is that a lot of people look at it as a black-white issue when it's not. Most of the locals that I grew up with are getting priced out of this market. No fault of their own. It's just the way things are. But sometimes the way things are aren't acceptable. And as I've always said, of course we need affordable housing, but I know people that make between $80,000 and $120,000 a year and can't find a place on the Cape, period. Most of my friends I grew up with no longer live on the Cape because they can't find a place. So we need to stop worrying about second homeowners and worry about the people who grew up here. That's all I got to say.
Councillor Clark, did you have anything?
Thank you very much, Vice President Cullum. Yeah, there you go. Thank you very much for all those who speak. I appreciate all those who take the time to drive over here and make the effort to voice their concerns. I echo what my fellow councilors have said, and I am also sensitive to the housing issue in our town. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. To my right? Gordon, anybody? No? Councillor Ludke?
Thank you, Vice President Cullum. Everybody, thank you so much for coming out. I echo what Chris Clark said. It's a big effort, and I appreciate it. I'll make it kind of an overarching comment, because a lot of you are speaking to this a similar thing in terms of, and Councillor Mendes mentioned it, focusing on the people that are here, the people who call this home, kind of the regular folk. I think all of us, with a few exceptions, those who aren't running this year, have been knocking on doors to get signatures and meeting people, and it's an amazing experience. And I want to remind everybody that the property taxes come in at about $145 million. And our general fund is, what, $198 million, something like that. So the preponderance of what we do here is funded on the backs of everyone in this audience and those who are not here. And I think we ought to be reminded of that this is the folks that are paying the bills. And I think they should have a very large voice in this, even those that are paying some, lower taxes. So let's always keep that in mind. And then another thing we have to keep in mind, I think this is from the Cape Cod Commission, there's only 14% of our land available to develop. All the others has either been developed or put into protection. And I don't recall the exact number, but I think it's in the 60% range of our homes are second homes. So statistically, we're in a really tough spot. And that's why, and I'll talk about each person, that's why when Paul Phelan stood up here and he talked about, relocating the airport, I think he used closing at the time, maybe, not the best choice of words because it kind of became a lightning rod. I really took that idea on to heart. I was like, oh my goodness, right in the heart of Hyannis, when we have these amazing runways, and this underutilized space out there at the Joint Base. We've done things like we've joined with them to use their sewer system, their sewage treatment plant. Gosh, why wouldn't we study that? And I was surprised when we won't study it. I wish we would study it, to look at a joint solution. It's done all the time. Perhaps I have an easier time understanding what Paul said because I worked this. I was at the Pentagon working base closures and realignments. I'm very familiar with realigning assets. When something doesn't quite make sense, and it doesn't make sense to me to lengthen this runway, you look at alternatives, you really study them. And that's, I think, what Paul was advocating, and I took it on, and I still will advocate for it. I really wish we would, as a town, study this, especially when we only have 14% of our land available for development. And we have folks here talking about the housing crisis. You know, we could do so much there, not just housing, as Paul said, but other things. So thank you, Paul, for continuing to advocate for that. I hope one day we will actually study that and do due diligence to that. Suzanne, as always, Tracy mentioned it. I so admire your group. You bring so much to the table. I know later tonight we have on the agenda the sewage, the pipe risers on Strawberry Hill, and in the justification it talks about they had to get at a lower depth because of the wind cables, and now we're having to do a supplement to go back and fix that. So the two are interrelated, and we always have to be mindful of that. And I have looked using Google Earth at where these wind farms in the North Atlantic, I've flown over them, I've seen them with my own eyes. They're quite magnificent, but they don't land in places that even remotely resemble Dowses Beach. They land at industrial areas, and if they do land on beaches, these beaches are deserted, and they come through fields and things. And you can look on Google Earth, and you can see it for yourself. I looked at one in the Netherlands. They go out of their way not to go through towns. So I encourage you and I admire you, and I hope the state of Massachusetts, you want wind, we all want wind. I don't think anyone is arguing that, but my goodness, there's smarter ways to land it, and it's been demonstrated in Europe. Marianne, you're always amazing. Gosh, I enjoy listening to you. You're entertaining as well as being incredibly serious, and that's a nice mix because it really gets the attention of folks, so thank you. And while you were speaking, I thought of Asia. It was so nice that Asia popped in on Zoom. Asia has so many good ideas. She's talking about like a renter's kind of legal assistance, creating something. She has marvelous ideas. I've recommended her to Cheryl Powell for Human Services. I certainly hope that comes to fruition because, my goodness, what an asset Asia is to our community. Let's see. And Garrett, I think, Councilman Atzelis and the other folks and everybody, and that folds into what Asia's saying too. She understands this. She's been through it. Believe me, she has, like many of you. That's ridiculous to be in your circumstance. So it sounds like we're going to be taking that on and helping in that. And again, to Marianne about the beauty. The beauty was here, and it's been taken away. And that speaks to everything, again, what Paul said, what Suzanne. There's a resounding message here about that beauty, about that special quality. And it dovetails through everything that all of you talked about tonight. And thank you again so much.
Thank you, Councilor Ludke. Anyone else on my right? Councilor Schnepp, please.
Thank you, Vice President Cullum. And thank you to all who have come out tonight to share your public comment. I know that you have been here before, many of you have been here before. Your messages are often similar, but it's a strong message that we are receiving, so thank you. I just wanted to focus in a little bit on the housing issue, as at least three of you brought that up. It is a really challenging time for all of us on the Cape, and as people have said, in the region, in the country. And it's very difficult to hear when someone finally gets a subsidy that they're going to be time limited. What I'd like to suggest to you, Garrett, I don't know who issued you your voucher, but generally if it's a housing authority or an agency, there are ways that you can extend it. So please, know that you should reach out and not think that it's going to expire just because they give you initially a 60-day period of time, okay? And definitely, if you've left your contact information, we can work with you to make sure that happens. The creation of new housing it takes a long time, especially if it's going to be affordable housing. And I know there's some in the audience that knows that it can take 10 years to create affordable housing. I wanted to kind of, without giving out any confidential information, but there will be some ARPA funds that will be announced in the next month or two that are going to create up to 302 affordable housing units on Cape Cod. And some of those are going to be here in Barnstable, I hope. So, if all comes to fruition, so that there's still a little bit of time here, and this is money that, started at the federal level and, came down to the county and will be spread out. So there's some silver linings out there, but, in the immediate now, it is really tough. And we need to do everything we can to keep people here that have lived here for decades, their families, and for all those folks that are having to come over the bridge to work in our retail establishments, in our hospitality, in our schools, in our municipalities. We need to provide housing that's closer. So we'll be on the task in every which way we can, and thank you for continuing to come before us and reminding us of what we need to be doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schnepp. I'd just like to add a couple comments. I appreciate especially Marianne Barbosa taking the time today to call me at home to talk about these issues. And I appreciate Asia coming back. And I know, Asia, I hope you're listening because we have so many spots for you on boards and committees. It's not even funny. So please apply early and often. We can take up every single night of the week if you'd like. We'd love your voice. And Marianne told me why she wouldn't, and I totally respect that too. I did want to say that one really bright thing that's happened this year is our new district attorney with regard to civil rights and the fight toward equality and the fight really toward accountability in our community. And I just wanted to give him a major shout out to DA Galabois for all that he's done for us so far. If you're not following his press releases, they're pretty amazing. And then if you need to reach us individually or you want to see what positions are available. Asia, I'm pretty sure, is internet savvy. Please go to the Town of Barnstable website. All those vacancies are listed. We are always looking to represent our community more thoroughly on our boards and committees. Unfortunately, we often don't have applicants, and it takes a long time to build this relationship, but the Town of Barnstable and this council in general is interested in building that relationship. So please, if you have time and you have the energy and you believe you can make a difference, we believe you can too. Please come to us. Because we want that. We want that. And I think that's it for me. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for coming out. We always appreciate when you do. So at this time, I will ask Councillor Schnepp to make a motion on the minutes from last meeting.
July 20th?
July 20th.
I'd like to move approval of the minutes from the last regular town council meeting held on July 20th, 2023.
Second.
Everyone in favor of the minutes from July 20th, 2023, could you raise your hand and say aye? Looks like that's, Jessica won't raise her hand, but we know. No, I'm just kidding. So we're unanimous, all 10 of us that are here. And now we're moved on to town manager communications, which have been pre-recorded, and they're on, it's not channel 18 anymore, it's channel 4 digits, right? We're special. 1078 for high def, so you can see us, 1072, so you can see us all in high def. It's excellent. I've been waiting for that moment. So I will read just the top 10 things, or the 10 things that the manager covered. Number one is an update on incorrect preliminary FY 2024 tax bills. an update on the town manager amended regulations for grant location of wireless technology. Number 3 is an update on the draft beach management plan for Covels and Craigville Beach. Number 4, an update on the approved Title V and watershed permit regulations. I'm sorry, that's number 4. Number 5 is information on changes to the town's government access and public access stations. Number 6 is introduction of the My Barnstable app. Number 7, completion of improvements to the hiking and biking trail behind the U.S. Customs House property in Barnstable Village. Oh, it's not? Oh, this is the wrong one. I'm sorry. All right. How embarrassing. That was 2020. There were some things on there, though, right? Yeah, okay. So I think I should start with the second public hearing on the proposed grant of location regulations for July 12th, 2023, right? I feel like I need to pause here and get the right thing, because otherwise I'll be reading for 4 days. If I could just get a couple of minutes. Is that okay? Can we pause for just 2 seconds, please? 2 minutes. I sent the wrong. Yeah. Okay, we can go back on. I'm sorry, I don't seem to have the bulleted list, so I'm just going to read the basics here to everybody. So I'm going to go back. This is the town manager communications for August 17th. Pardon me. I'm still in July, as my son wishes we were, because school's approaching. So we are proceeding with the budget calendar for FY 2025. We are changing lifeguard attendance at beaches, which is really important. So I'm glad that was, thank you guys for pointing it out to me. Loop Beach as of Thursday, August 17th, will no longer have lifeguards. Veterans Beach as of Friday, August 18th, no lifeguards. Calmus Beach as of Sunday, August 20th, no lifeguards. Douses, Thursday, August 24th. Covels, August 28th. The lifeguards will be at Craigville Beach through Labor Day. The town manager's office held a second public hearing on proposed grant of location regulations on July 12th, addressing procedures and standards for the placement of wireless communication facilities in the public rights-of-way. That's explained in the town manager communications as well. The Mass Department of Environmental Protection has issued a tentative denial of Holtec's application to modify its Massachusetts permit to discharge Pilgrim Nuclear Power Plant's contaminated waters. That's all in there. Here comes the town manager with the bulleted list. On August 11th, Nina Coleman, here comes the list. Hold, please. An update on, in other news, Wendy with the weather. So an update on beach management for Covels and Craigville Beach from Nina Coleman, who's our hero when it comes to that. Number 6 is information on Cape Cod Commission's study of broadband capacity. Also information on changes to the town government access and public access stations, the introduction to My Barnstable app. Also the fireworks are coming up, September 2nd, 2023, weather permitting. And then an update from Kelly Colopy regarding the water resource management. So sorry that didn't go as smoothly as planned, but it is the Gong Show. You could have gonged me, and everyone's still here. Thank you. We're going to move on. So next we have, yes, do you have some questions?
Yeah, no, I just want to thank Kate Colopy for her DPW update. And it's a pleasure to hear that the expansion for the Strawberry Hill sewer, or the Strawberry Hill sewer expansion is 95% complete. The Centerville Village sewer expansion is 75% complete. And the work on the lake and pond update is advancing. So thank you for that good news.
Kelly's awesome. Is there anyone else with questions for the manager about the we'll go to my left first, about the communications? Or would you like me to just repeat all that? Because it was so graceful? Yeah, okay, I'll start over here. Did you have questions?
Thank you, Ms. Cullum. I just want to thank Nina Coleman for all her hard work putting that raking together and making it possible. Thank you.
Anyone else on my right want to speak to the town manager?
Yeah, I would
communications?
echo what Gordon said on the raking. Again, as I've been knocking doors in my neighborhood, so many of my precinct residents go to the Covels Beach, and many of them talked about that, how disappointed they were with the beaches this year. So, and it's a process, and congratulations to the town for taking that on and coming up with a management plan.
Thank you very much. Anyone else to my right? Any comments for the manager or questions? Councillor Schnapp?
Thank you, Vice President Comm. I just wanted to emphasize that one of the meeting points was the summer celebration, which you did mention. And I'm very excited that we are going to be able to have that again this year. Do we know what time the fireworks are going to start? If people want to do their planning, is that too premature to ask? Or if 8:30, 9 o'clock, at dark? Okay, when it's dark, okay. And it also says that parking will be available, or the trolley will be available to pick up. So I'm assuming that there's a trolley stop here at the town parking lot? Okay. What's that? Wave it down and stop. Okay. Many of us don't use the trolley, and so, but we might want to come down to Calmus, because I have a feeling Calmus is going to be a full parking lot. So I just wanted to make sure that viewers knew that it would be easy to get down there without having to drive down there and park. Thank you.
Is there a location where they can check the route of the trolley, or will it change for the fireworks? Does anyone know?
The information should be available from the Cape Cod Regional Transit Authority.
Okay, that's
Their
good intel.
website is included inside our release. Sunset on that day is at 7:13, and it's anticipated that the fireworks would be shot off around 8 p.m.
It's that moment
Yes.
between Buenos Tardes and Buenos Noches.
Yes,
It's right in the middle.
We actually, Mark Ellis, town manager, we actually have a very good public transit system. I know there was an earlier comment, so certainly if there are our concerns, meaning how late they provide transit, please communicate that to us, especially our businesses or our workers, because I am the board member. Now Elizabeth serves as my appointee, Elizabeth Jenkins, Director of Planning, with the Cape Cod RTA. You can find all of the information on their website, the route of the trolley. They have in the past, and they will continue to provide service. So if you have any questions, certainly you can reach out to us, but you can go right on to Cape Cod RTA and take a look at what services are there and when. So.
Thank you, Town Manager Ells.
Yep.
Anyone to my left? Yes, Councillor Shaughnessy.
Thank you. Mr. Ells, I was wondering, since we're working on our own local guidelines for placement of wireless antennas, is the town planning to make comment? Because currently in Congress, they're floating this 3557, which is basically the telecom industry's attempt to preempt all local regulations. Is the town planning to make a statement or a comment on that to our congressman?
Well, certainly we will look at it and have legal look at it in reference to those areas that we have control. With all respect, I will work with the president and vice president of the council, because that would be something that we would advise and you would put forth.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Just Chris Clark, please.
Thank you very much, Vice President Cullum. Can we put a link to the Cape Cod RTA on our website so people can?
Sure. Is there a link right now, Lynn?
I don't believe there is, but there is. It is included in the press release.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. We're going to roll on to communications from elected officials at this point, I think. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share? Councillor Clark.
Thank you very much, Vice President Cullum. First of all, thank you to our thank you.
Yell.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the work by the public service, emergency preparedness or emergency response people, our police department, our fire department, Eversource, for the very good response we had to the tornado that ripped through Marston's Mills in my precinct. I have had compliments made from my constituents, and I appreciate what has been done, including the most recent cleanup. So hats off to you, and let's hope. I grew up not knowing that there were tornadoes in Massachusetts, and lo and behold, we have it. We have news of this more frequently than expected. And I would like to pitch that on Saturday is the West Barnstable Village Festival, which is from 10 in the morning to 3 p.m. And since Councillor Cullum mentioned the District Attorney Galaboy's, I should say that he will be in the dunk tank from noon till 1:30 if anyone wants to throw baseballs at the trigger to dunk them. We'll welcome the traffic that comes our way. So it's our annual event in West Barnstable, always on the third Saturday of August, unless a hurricane comes through. Thank you very much.
That guy can't get a break. He's in every dunk tank in town. Anyone to my right? Councillor Starr, please.
Thank you. Thank you, President Cullum. Is that right? Or Vice President? Madam Cullum. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to bring up an issue that I think as a council we should spend some time talking about. I think as the CWMP progresses and we start to open up Finney's Lane for sewer connections, I think as a town we need to think about zoning regulations and controlling where the growth is going to be in the sewer districts as we go west from here. I'm worried about capacity over the long run. Will we use up our capacity before we get to Marston Mills? So it has to. I think we need to either have a workshop and look at the CWMP and how it was developed and what the capacity levels were, what the assumptions were when they were developed. It affects our state revolving fund loans. Right now, as what are we? A what city? We're a gateway city. We're eligible for 1.5% state revolving fund loans. If we had a flow neutral zoning policy, we could get 0% loans. And I think maybe the finance department could come back and speak to us at some point about that.
I'll bring it up in leadership.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Anyone else to my right? Town manager. Communications from elected officials. Councillor Schnapp.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I just wanted to bring up that we added, and I'm very thankful to staff for allowing us to add an agenda item to our evening's agenda that is a support letter for money from the federal government, requesting money from the federal government for our bridges. And this was an opportunity that came to my attention from the Cape and Islands Municipal Leaders Association this morning, and I urge consideration of that when we get to that item later in the evening. Thank you.
I think all councilors were provided that. Yeah, that's great. So, okay, that's it. So now we're going to move on to some workshops that we have planned. We're going to switch them, though, so we do the Local Comprehensive Plan Committee first. If Director Jenkins could come up. Or whoever's presenting. I'm sorry, Ben. Felicia's coming up. Great. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? She's deferring to me. I don't know why, but no, you can do that.
It's a harbinger of things to come.
I don't know if I should thank you for that or not. I don't know.
Isn't that funny?
So, yeah, it is funny. Anyway, so good evening, and thank you for having us here. We probably should have been here before because it's been actually over a year that the Local Comprehensive Planning Committee was put together and assembled, and And we completed phase 1 a couple months ago, actually. I think that was in June. And we're about to start phase 2 sometime in October, I believe it is. And thank you for your support on funding for the consultants through this process. So I'm just going to lead you through an update. Before I get started, I just want to recognize many members from the committee who are here this evening so they can keep me on the right path as they have done throughout this whole thing, because I certainly can't, this is not something that you could do by yourself. So let me see, we have Wendy Northcross, Sue Rohrbach. You guys can all stand if you want. No? Okay. Cheryl Powell, Avery Revere, Bob Twist, and Lindsay Council in the back row. Am I missing anybody? And of course, planning staff has been absolutely invaluable during this process. So we're going to start out on what a local comprehensive plan is. We do have one in right now, but it was approved by the town council in 2010, so we're a few years behind in updating it. So it is definitely defines long-term land use visions and policies for the community. So it's a land use plan, basically. After hearing a lot of comments and knowing about the stresses and pressures on the town, I wish it did more for human services, but what it really does is take what we know about pressures from human services and it informs the land uses in response to what we know we need in the future, okay? So it's limited in that, but it also deals with capital facilities and infrastructure, which, as we know, are very important. A big battle was to define our unique values as a community, but the beauty of this was that the community participated in a very large way. It wasn't just done something in committee, okay? And we want to balance development, preservation, and the environment, and all of this is easier said than done, as you well know. So there were 3 parts to phase 1. The first one was community engagement, which we're going to get into a little bit early here. The second part was the vision, and the third part is existing conditions. So phase 2, all of that came into phase 1, and all of that informs phase 2, which we're about to embark on, okay? Phase 2 is actually the plan, all right, and how that gets written. Okay, we'll go next. So this is a summary, if you could read the fine print here, of, I talked about community engagement and reaching out. We started last September, so a whole year ago, in coordinating, and we went all over the town, participating in as much as we could. You can see how detailed, thanks to staff, they were here, there, and everywhere, as were committee members. Many of our committee members took time out of their days and nights and weekends to also participate. Mostly what we did when we were in locations is have a table and try to listen to what people had to say. We also handed out postcards and tried to get them to understand that we were looking for their input, so if they didn't want to talk about anything then, they could think about it for a while and participate later in that. So as you can see, there was significant effort made by staff, consultants, and committees. Here's some photos from, I think that's Halloween on Main Street. And then it was a hockey game, and there were all kinds of posters in the hallways and stuff with QR codes, so you could scan and be connected to surveys, et cetera, et cetera. And this is a page of the local comprehensive plan on our website. I will say that the landing page from the town's website, boom, you can't miss it. So if you were wondering if we were doing anything with the local comprehensive plan, yes, we are. And then the next page, you can see there's even more. There's a map and data viewer, so you could see what kind of comments came in and what was happening. And we also had a survey in a mailer and a postcard. And you can see where it was all distributed. And the best thing about this was it was done in English, Portuguese, and Spanish. So any household that received this had an opportunity to respond in their own language and at their own pace. There were comment walls at the high school, the youth community center, and the adult community center. And we also have a newsletter for this. We also did a video online requesting participation, and Carlos Barbosa was so kind and helped us and did his interview in Portuguese. So it was really good that we were basically talking about, lots of the committee members participated in this, in their opinion, why the public's participation was important. So, and on the next slide, you can see that this was from our website where the QR codes would come in and lead you into public comment, so we could get somebody's name in their village. Not to deal with that, but I want you to know that the committee read every comment that came in from people. It wasn't just a mishmash of stuff that was headed. And if you're not signed up for the newsletter up on the right, you should be. Anybody here or not, because your input matters. So again, here's a summary of the community events and civic associations and that we dealt with. We're going to be making other rounds from civic associations coming up, and we may have other opportunities for that also. So on this page, key themes from the engagement. I want you to know that this all derived from public comments. This wasn't something that the committee created in a tunnel anywhere. And you'll notice that the first 5-6 bullets on this are to protect water quality in all forms, environmental resources that we maintain, tree canopies to maintain those, tourist appeal, et cetera, et cetera. And like I said, this is all from public comment. They want to keep our villages quaint. They want to maintain diverse community character that's unique to each village, reduce traffic congestion, good luck with that, improve pedestrian safety. That's a real important point to make here. More opportunities for children and families. And they also that relates to recreation village events, but also medical access. You can see human service stuff coming in here too, and special education, et cetera, et cetera. So there are references to other needs out there other than just the land use and activities. Very interestingly, create more year-round employment opportunities, job sectors that provide living wages, very important. Foster opportunities to form community connections, get to know your neighbors, and increase proactive communication transparency from town government. So all of this was from public comment. Those are not in any order specifically, okay? It's not that the most important ones are at top. They were just grouped by related topics if they lived together. So this, you can see a list of our LCPC members here on the bottom. Unfortunately, Mr. Barbosa has resigned. Mr. Costello has resigned. I'm trying to think on that. I think Megan Moore also did. I'm not positive about that. But we do have 4 seats open, and we are looking to diversify the LCPC committee, and we are engaging to do that. So just so you know. I will say that this slide is very telling, because when we were hashing out words, and you know how difficult it can be in a group, a large group, to agree on specific words to get a point across because everybody thinks differently, we can thank Avery Revere for even trying to use AI to try to centralize some of her thoughts and bring it to the table, which was kind of interesting. But after we got done with all kinds of talk and stuff. We asked for public comment. And this couple sitting in the front, you can see the backs of them there, and the man's wearing suspenders, okay? That's Catherine and George, okay? I don't know how to pronounce the last name. I think it's Leduc, L-E-D-E-C or D-U-C? D-E-C, Leduc, probably. And we read a letter that, a memo, basically, that she had sent into the committee with certain suggestions. And he got up and he spoke, and it was very eloquent and good for him. And then she got up and she said, let me introduce myself. I am Catherine. So after we had taken her memo and discussed and dissected it and bisected it, here she was there. And wow, I felt like saying, here, do you want a job? You know, I mean, she was just so intelligent and wonderful. And she really helped the committee get through our process to deal with the vision, which we have on the next page.
I think I saw Councilor Ledke on the right of that photo.
Yeah, she
if I'm
was
not
there.
mistaken.
You can't miss the hair, yeah. She was there, but she was quiet that evening, I think. Just listening and watching the show. So I'm going to read the vision because I think it's very important, especially since it took us how many meetings and hours to get through this. It seems so simple now, but the overall vision for the town is, the town of Barnstable is a vibrant and diverse community where people and nature thrive together. That took about 20 hours to figure out. We are committed to creating a healthy, safe, inclusive, and equitable place for all residents and to restore, enhance, and protect our natural resources for future generations. So, this is all supportive language to achieve our vision. We will proactively protect, restore, and enhance priority natural habitats, salt and fresh water resources, and open spaces. We will maintain healthy coastal ecosystems along with commercially viable harbors. Protect and improve the quality and quantity of our drinking water. Prepare and adapt to climate impacts, including sea level rise. Reduce our environmental footprint by investing in low-carbon energy, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and better managing our waste. Build on our outstanding recreational opportunities and enhance access to open spaces while also ensuring no environmental harm as recommended by the Open Space and Recreation Plan. Preserve, enhance, and celebrate the unique historic character and sense of place of the town and each of its 7 villages. Promote a diverse economy that supports living wages and local businesses and restores and enhances and protects the natural environment. Commit to providing affordable and attainable year-round housing options. This should be in capital letters. Provide access to high-quality public education, healthcare, human and social services, and a healthy environment. Foster an inclusive community that values diversity. Incentivize redevelopment and encourage new development towards locations with adequate infrastructure and away from environmentally sensitive areas townwide. Enable people to travel safely and efficiently by the mode of their choice. Build essential infrastructure that is resilient, adaptable, and sustainable, and minimize its environmental impact. Increase transparency of local government so that it can make effective decisions grounded in citizen input and implement necessary changes efficiently. Strengthen community connections, communication townwide, and seek opportunities for collaboration with neighboring towns. Recognize and build upon previous efforts by citizens in the town to make Barnstable the best that it can be. That's a lot of words, and it's a big challenge. So, after that we came up with a vision, we have existing condition report. If you haven't read it, you can learn a lot about what exists in this town. This is the foundation upon which our plan will be written. You can see the data. This exhibits the data that we see. On the left is a 1940s photo, aerial photo, and I believe the right photo is from 2014. And this is, I believe, Prince Cove and Eagle Pond on the Marston's Mills Cotuit border. Wow, huh? So the existing conditions and data, I've learned a lot by reading it. It informs the development of Phase 2, as I already said. Inventory and overview of existing assets, guides discussions about future growth, development, and resource protection. I know you've heard me before you and in the past talking about, Hyannis running out of water and the water shortage, et cetera, et cetera. I got that information out of this existing conditions report, so I didn't make it up myself. And it was exciting to read that the town had that kind of information in there so that when the next phase of our plan comes up, which exists of, these are the actual chapters that will probably be in there. So the vision will be there, community engagement again, a summary of what we've done, natural systems, built systems, and community systems, and all the supporting data that goes with it, including implementation plans, et cetera, et cetera. So the one thing that I would like to do is, again, thank staff and thank the committee members, because this is an ongoing process that's probably going to take another year to finish. I hope not, it doesn't take that long, but we won't be starting again to meet. We kind of miss each other at this point. We were getting so together till October. So there's more to come. If there's any questions, I know it's just supposed to be a presentation, but I'm happy to try to field anything if you'd like.
Absolutely. Anybody have questions for Ms. Penn? Yes, Councilor
Thank you
Clark.
very much. Vice President Collum?
Yes.
What is the plan or the process for filling those 4 vacancies?
Yes, so that's, some people have already submitted their names because the town manager was the one who actually made the appointments. Some of those months ago went in to that office. And I know that Ms. Jenkins and Ms. Schnapp and I are going to meet at some point in time soon, like as soon as next week maybe. We're just getting together on dates to do that, to talk about names. But if anybody has specific recommendations they'd like to make for representatives for the community, people who would have enough patience to deal with the process and to contribute, that would be great to just forward names to either Elizabeth or Paula, I would say, at this point, or town manager. Thanks for the question.
Anyone else have a question? Yes, Councilor Ludke.
Thank you. I think the correct term is acting President Cullum, correct?
I think I'm Madam Vice President.
Madam Vice
Yeah, he comes home
President.
tomorrow, so we can party tonight, but tomorrow all bets are off.
Okay. No, I had a similar question to what Chris Clark had asked, because I've had several people come to me and I've told them, well, send your name to Mark Ells. So I think that's good. You're going to come up with a process. If it could be very clearly presented on the town website, I think that would be helpful, because these 2 people that came to me are from very diverse backgrounds, voices that we don't have. And it's been a pleasure. I've come to most of your meetings. I'm usually very quiet because you guys are just amazing in the level of discussion, the depth, and the clarity of how you analyze things. It's been very impressive, and I will say Kate has been instrumental, and now she's home with her baby. So she's been so good at keeping you guys on track. So
Yeah, she's been
excellent.
very responsive, and will get any information and data that we look for, which is terrific.
Anyone else care to speak? Councilor Schnapp?
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I just want to thank the members of the Local Comprehensive Planning Committee. This is an incredible amount of work that you've put forward. The outreach to the community, obviously staff has been a critical part of this. And I look forward to seeing how you translate this vision into the action plan.
Me too.
So, thank you.
It's going to be a challenge. The beauty of our committee, I will say, is that everybody gets a voice. We don't always agree. We sometimes agree to disagree, but at the very end, we all end up at the same base at the same time. So it's pretty good.
I think
Can't
Councilor
complain
Clark has
about
one more
that.
comment.
I do have another question. So for these vacancies, these 4 vacancies that you're looking to fill, is there a sense of timeline or a deadline for people to apply? So if I was interested, I don't know, do I have
I don't know that right now, and so I think that'll be communicated to town council once that we figure that out, once we meet in try to figure out the exact process, et cetera, because Counselor Schnepp is chair of the appointments committee, and so we were looking for her guidance on some things. And so I'm not sure, last time the interviews were totally separate from that, didn't go through the actual committee, but there was a separate appointments committee for this, and whether we set that up again, I don't know. I'd hate to give, sooner the better, I would say, to get names in,
Yeah, I think that initially it was myself, Councillor Bogan, who was from Osterville at the time, and Town Manager Els who decided, and that was the formation of the committee. I don't know if that would happen again, but
Right.
it is important to get the process down so that people can apply. But it's great. Thank you for all your hard work, and thank you, Jim, and thank you, Elizabeth, and Kate, who's home with the baby, for all your hard work working with the community. It's noticed and appreciated and noted. That was a great presentation. Thank you very much,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Penn. Okay, we've got one more presentation tonight, one more workshop. Are we good with the restroom, or do we need to take a break now and then come back for the workshop? Everyone's good? Okay, so you can step out for a phone call. So, okay, good. Let's just roll then. We'll roll with the next one, which is the workshop discussing the town-provided health insurance. Yep. We got everybody here for this one. First string, right here.
Why, thank you. I'm going to hand it off to Karen next, though.
Town Manager Els?
Great. You have a timer. Thank you, sir.
3 minutes,
3
go.
minutes. This is a workshop, right? Good evening. Mark Els, Town Manager. Thank you for having us here for a workshop on our health insurance benefits with you all, Town Council. I'm going to do a brief introduction and then hand it over to Karen Nober, our town attorney, to talk about some of the conflict of interest concerns that you've heard as we've progressed into this discussion and the action that would be needed if we were going to go forward with any change to health benefits in the town. That'll be followed by Bill Cole, our Human Resources Director, talking about the employment market and talking about recruiting and retaining employees in the town of Barnstable. Finally, Mark Minn will close, providing you all with some of the financial impacts if we make modifications, or if you vote for us to be able to make modifications. I always start almost every thought relevant to my role as your town manager with your mission statement. It's critical as you go forward in a complex community like Barnstable to be focused on quality of life and unique character at all times, engaging our citizens at all times, and making sure that we have in place policies that respond to our community's needs. So, that's a very practical description of what all of us do, consider, and take into account as we make decisions every day. And we do this through sound financial management, communication with our public, organizational commitment to developing our staff, and with an equitable balance of our resources so that we can maintain that quality of life for our residents, our businesses, and our visitors. Yeah, from my perspective, the real challenge is that balance because we are a complex community. So as we look at balance, part of being able to balance something is being agile, being able to adapt. And so we welcome this opportunity to come before you in a workshop to talk about something that's changed and that it impacts our ability to maintain that quality of life. And that is the employment market. And it's not unique to Barnstable. We can pick up any newspaper anywhere in the country, and private or public, and we can see those challenges. You know, Barnstable's the second largest employer on Cape Cod. We play a significant, town of Barnstable, municipal government. We play a significant role in life on Cape Cod for its residents, its businesses, and its visitors. You know, we're in the business of providing municipal services, and one of our greatest assets is our employees and their ability to provide that high-quality programming and services. And I keep saying it's a complex community, and you know, I think you all know that as our leadership, but we are. You know, we have many different things that most communities don't have. I'll stop there. To frame our municipal government a little bit for you, municipal side's about 450 employees. School side is about 1,300 employees. We have 6 collective bargaining units, both on municipal and school. Separate, so 12 altogether there. We have non-affiliated staff, and we have contracted staff. So from a employee standpoint, from a how we manage our employees, again, it's complex. When we go into collective bargaining, when we look at our labor market, when we look at employment in the town of Barnstable. Health insurance benefits are an important part of that employment. You know, the marketplace, and we're not by any means in tonight's workshop trying to suggest that health benefits are the key to addressing this challenge that we have. You know, housing, we talked about it earlier, availability and affordability, certainly a major factor everywhere. You know, competitive salaries and benefits, yes, absolutely. Quality of personal and work life. You know, when I look across our nation and certainly read about it locally, it's the same sort of major issues that we see over and over again, as well as emerging from a public health emergency that really changed us, you know, on a societal basis. So very interesting. Person like Bill Cole, very interesting to try to help us, you know, recruit and retain employees in this marketplace. We currently pay 50% of the permanent employees' health insurance costs for those employees who choose to participate in our health plan. So just so you know, we're 50 town pays, 50 the employee pays, 50%. Barnstable ranges right now between 10 and 20%. We've got some even greater challenges in our seasonal and part-time, but we're really looking at these permanent, more than 20-hour-a-week employees. They're the ones who receive the health benefits. And we are seeing challenge, and later Bill will share some of those challenges with you. Now, during operating budget this year, the town council asked us these questions about vacancy rate, about benefits, and you asked us to come back here and do this workshop with you. And so here we are to do that. And one of the major factors for us that you're going to hear, starting with our attorney Nova, is our health insurance benefits. So I've tried to frame out, you know, how, our place in the market for employment, and a couple of statistics on who we are and what we do. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Karen Nober and have her go over the 2 areas that I had outlined in my summary when I began. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Welcome. Yes, please.
Excellent. Good evening, counselors. Karen Nober, Town Attorney. We're on my slide. Great. So I know we've talked a lot about these issues. We've talked about these issues at the special town council meeting that we had a week ago. So I'm going to go over it just very briefly. So the conflict of interest law, as we know, prohibits a municipal employee from participating in a particular matter in which that employee has a financial interest. So the particular matters that we're talking about tonight under discussion are matters and decisions and recommendations regarding employee health insurance. We're not talking tonight about retiree health insurance. The discussion is really limited just to employee health insurance. So if you're an appointed employee, which the town manager is, which all of us are, we can file a disclosure with our appointing authority if we have a conflict of interest, if we have a prohibited financial interest, and we can seek a determination that would allow us to participate in the matter, notwithstanding the financial interest. Elected officials do not have an appointing authority, so you cannot participate in a matter in which you have a financial interest unless, and this is a very narrow exception, unless the rule of necessity applies. So the rule of necessity can be used in very limited circumstances. Its use is for an elected board when the board cannot act on a matter because not every member, but because they cannot reach a quorum because members have a financial interest that would prohibit them from participating. But they can only use it in connection with matters when an elected board is legally required to act on a matter. That means there's a statute that requires an action to be taken, or there's a deadline for action that must be met. It cannot be used when a board has discretion to act or simply wants to take an action. So before invoking the rule of necessity, every effort must be made to find another board or another authority in the town with the legal power to act in place of the elected board. There are procedural requirements for invoking the rule of necessity, and the Ethics Commission strongly encourages that before you invoke that rule, town council talks with them, you consult with them, you figure out whether you can actually use it, because again, it's meant to be a very limited tool to allow a board to act when they legally have to take an action. So I have talked with the Ethics Commission about the health insurance matters, and their position, at least to date, and these discussions are ongoing, but their position to date is that it is not available with respect to the health insurance matter that we're talking about, the change from the 50-50 split, because that is not anything you are required to do. There is no deadline that you take that action. It is a discretionary action. So that's what we're working under, and I'm working under the assumption that we cannot use that rule for this. So the conflict of interest issues and how they apply to staff. So the town manager, the town manager and other appointed staff who have health insurance through the town, they need approval from their appointing authority to participate in matters involving employee health insurance. The town manager's appointing authority is the council. If he receives a determination from the council allowing him to participate, notwithstanding his financial interest, he can then make similar determinations for other town staff in his capacity as their appointing authority. The town council, for the council to act on matters involving employee health insurance, there needs to be a quorum, and that's 9 counselors. So it has to be 9 counselors who do not have a financial interest in the matter. Currently, there are 7 counselors who obtain health insurance through the town. And if we assume 2 of those counselors are not running again, that number drops to 5, but that still only leaves us with 8 counselors without a conflict. So we cannot achieve a quorum on this issue. So the votes that we've structured them with the upcoming November election in mind. And elected officials who have a financial interest in proposed changes to the employee health care contributions may take a vote on that matter prior to an election in which they are running for re-election if the vote is made effective after the election. And the reason for that is there is no way of knowing today whether a counselor will be re-elected, and therefore a counselor will not have a reasonably foreseeable financial interest in changes that take effect after the election. Obviously, counselors who are not running for re-election will not have a financial interest in employee health insurance changes that take effect after the election. But if a counselor obtains health insurance through the town and votes on changes to the employee health insurance contribution prior to the election, but at a time when he or she knows they're running unopposed, that counselor will have a financial interest in such changes, even if they don't take effect until after the election. So that's a long way of saying nomination papers are due to the town clerk on September 15th. So that's the date on which counselors will know if they're running unopposed and whether they have a financial interest in this matter after the election. So we have structured everything to try to get a vote either tonight or at the next meeting, September 7th, before counselors actually know if they're running unopposed, and that's the reason for that. So that's why the votes are set up the way they are. We have 2 votes. One would not be effective until December 1st, and the other one would not be effective until, at the earliest date, December 1st. And again, we're talking with the Ethics Commission about the rule of necessity, but everything we're doing is based on the premise that we can't use it. Are there any questions about any of that?
Anyone have a question for Attorney Nober? Yes, Councilor Ledke.
Yeah, maybe we'd have to run that by again. So you can do this now because you threw up some numbers there that we didn't have the numbers now, but you said we can vote now because people don't know the future. But after the 15th, we'd have more clarity. Wouldn't it be better to wait till there was more clarity? Or I need it to run by me again to understand why we would vote now versus with the more clarity after the 15th of September.
Yeah, so the reason to vote now is to vote today, but on something that won't be effective until after the election. And the reason for that is no one knows how the election's going to go, and the statute talks about you're prohibited from acting in a matter if you have a reasonably foreseeable financial interest in that matter. It is not reasonably foreseeable today that you will have a financial interest as an elected official in a matter that doesn't go into effect until December 1st, because there's an election in between, and it's not reasonably foreseeable because we don't know how the election will go. But if on September 15th, you, for example, know you're running unopposed, now you do know that you're going to have a financial interest in what happens after the election because you're going to win, and you know it. So that's the reason for that. So I'm trying to get things done today so that we don't run into that issue after the election.
Okay, that helps.
I mean, it's possible we could have a town council where no one's taking the health insurance after the election. I think that's unlikely, but it's possible. But if we guess and we guess wrong, we kind of lose this window of opportunity because this is an election where everyone's up for election, which is not typically the case. So
Right,
it actually
you're
works perfectly.
The uncertainty is what you're counting on. Because you
Yes,
did put up the numbers that said we did not have the quorum with those who elected to take it right now, right?
You don't have the quorum if you wanted to, right, you don't have the quorum.
But it's the uncertainty that makes it legally viable to vote right now.
Right, right.
Okay.
You need to make that a vote effective after the election for that reason.
Councilor Rapcorsetti?
Karen, I had a question about retirees. Council retiring and this.
So, yes, so that's why in putting this together, we were first talking about employee health insurance. Then fairly late in the discussions, it was, well, are we including retiree health insurance in this discussion? And my answer was, I can look into how we do it mechanically, but I don't want to have a discussion with the council because I have to figure out which counselors have a financial interest in retiree health insurance. And it's the counselors who are vested in the retirement system, which is different from the whole election discussion we're having. So right now, we don't have a quorum who can vote on retiree health insurance because of the counselors who are vested. Now, after the election, we will probably be in a better position on that issue, and so we can take that up at that time, and we don't need the election as sort of the dividing line because it's really whether you're vested in the system or not, and that's not dependent on an election. The election just makes it more likely we'll have a quorum, if that
That's a great
makes sense.
question. Thank you for that. Councilor Schnapp?
Thank you, Madam Vice President. There currently isn't an item on our agenda that would require a town council vote on health insurance. So I'm assuming that if we are going to take a vote, that would be at our next meeting, or am I
So the vote that's on, there are two votes on the agenda. One vote is for the council to accept the provisions of Chapter 32B, Section 7A,
It's the first item under new business, first and second.
and we've made that vote effective December 1st for the reasons we just talked about. The second vote is a delegation and a determination under the conflict of interest law. The determination under the conflict of interest law allows the town manager to make decisions and negotiate with the unions on which this has to be collectively bargained if we're going forward with it. So that would allow him to proceed in that fashion. Otherwise, he has a financial interest and he can't do it unless the council gives him permission. So the delegation, excuse me.
We need that easy button from Staples right now.
I know. So the delegation is something that we were looking at because under the charter, the town manager has responsibility for collective bargaining. And what comes back to the council are appropriations related to that process. And under Chapter 32B, Section 7A, it's clear that it's the council that has to accept that section. It's the governmental unit, and it's very clear in that section that it is the council. It is not quite as clear that the council is the governmental unit that actually decides what the percentage should be. But I think it makes sense to take the conservative approach and have the council delegate that to the town manager, which really he would be doing anyway. And under Chapter 150E, which is the collective bargaining statute, the chief executive officer of the town is the public employer for collective bargaining purposes. So under that interpretation, it would be the town manager. But I think it's just much cleaner to make it clear that the council is not taking that vote because, again, because of all the conflict of interest issues. So the second vote is a delegation and a determination allowing the town manager to proceed with these matters.
Follow-up? So the discussion that we have with staff during this workshop is critical to inform the town manager our kind of what we think the employee health insurance percentage should be, or
I think that this discussion should be focused more on the panel providing you with information and the council asking questions to make sure you fully understand what it is we're telling you. I think if we want to get to the point of the council saying, we feel strongly you should do X in terms of the percentages, then I would advise that we go into executive session at the next council meeting under the collective bargaining rationale and have that discussion in executive session, as that we really couldn't do it in public because it would be collective bargaining strategy. So that's an option. That's certainly an option. The council can't take an actual vote to pick a percentage because then he would not be bargaining in good faith. You can't vote ahead of time.
If we wanted to go in that direction, could we still vote affirmatively on this item 2024-013?
Yes, because at the end of the day, you would still need to delegate that to him, I think, under the way we've structured this. Okay. So you would be giving guidance and your point of view to the town manager for him to take into account as he negotiates. But I think the vote would still remain the way it is.
Other counselors on this side, questions for Attorney Nober? No one? Counselor Ludke?
I had a follow-up relative to our meeting we had on the strategy. And I know we haven't completed the strategy, but we do have a strategy in place. And I know that Mark made a very strong comment that he says he and his staff rely on that strategy daily. And I know one of the things that we discussed there, I know it stood out to me, was we had a comment there about cost cutting. And I feel that goes to the heart of this matter. And I understand where Paula's coming from, that you can do cost cutting to a degree, and that's in the strategy. but does that get you where you need to be? As I say, I don't want to get into the negotiating of it, but I think it's very important to understand where that strategy fits in there, and we did not finish that discussion on there. And will that strategy, maybe Mark can answer this, is the strategy document going to factor into your discussions?
Good evening, Mark Ellis, Town Manager. Certainly your strategic plan and the overriding vision, including sound financial management, is what will really guide myself and staff in budget development. Within that, the strategies, we look at them and we try to understand tactically on a operations level, annual operations level, how to make sure that our budgets annually embody that. So within sound financial management, which would always be what we would bring forward, we would look at how to do that. And you have identified cost cutting as an option, but I can also tell you that prudent management would always have us, looking at opportunities to be more efficient financially. So I don't see it as a conflict or a problem, but I absolutely see any long-term impact on expense as a significant consideration that certainly our finance director is looking at, annually in 5-year, 10-year increments, so that we can keep that, beyond us. There is a sound financial management plan. I think that your guidance as a counselor, and certainly when we look outside of us and our performance relevant to this, when you look at how the national bond rating agencies look at Barnstable, we're very strong in management, and very strong in leadership, and very strong in structuring a municipal government. That's an outside professional agency that makes those determinations. So I know that was a long answer, but yeah, we look at cost cutting, but I don't see it as prohibiting us from taking up this issue. We're always looking at how to balance all the demands that we have on us by our community. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to make one comment, and that is that at the strategic planning session, the comment was made about the word aggressively looking for new dollars. And I'm not sure if the newer counselors knew that we need between $750,000 and $1 million in new tax growth dollars annually to support the projects that we have going on in the town. We need new tax growth dollars every single year. Jimmy Crocker taught me that. He slammed his finger on the table. So it's important that we know that cost cutting is part of it, but so is generation of new tax dollars when we talk about these things. So I'm going to let you guys continue. I just briefly want to say, you have such a gift, Attorney Nober, of taking the most complicated things and busting them out into little morsels. And it's much easier to understand you when you talk about this than when I get in my own head. So thank you for a very clear presentation. And I'll let you continue. Thank you.
Well, thank you, because I know it's complicated, and I have to kind of go through it in my head a few times. So
well,
thank
I did
you.
want, Harry Potter had like the room of requirement. I think that's what we need. Just bail on this necessity thing and talk to the Ethics Commission about the room of requirement.
I will do that. So getting back to the statute, so it's Chapter 32B, Section 7, which is the requirement that the town and the employees each pay 50% of the employee health insurance costs. And so that's what we're operating under. And to modify that, we would have to, the town council would have to accept the provisions of Section 7A of Chapter 32B, which allows the town to pay more, but not less than 50% of the monthly premium. So the employee contribution can only go down. And then, as we discussed under the town charter, the town manager is responsible for collective bargaining with the unions. So if the town council votes to accept 7A and delegates this matter to the manager, He would then commence negotiations with the unions, and any agreed-upon change would then be applied across the board for all employees of the town, subject to appropriation as part of the town's budget process. And again, I think we're doing this as a delegation. I think that is the cleanest way to do it, but I'm not entirely convinced that it's not already within the town manager's authority. And again, I'm talking with the Ethics Commission because we also talked about the budget process, and unlike this statute, the council is legally required to approve the budget, and there are deadlines. And so to the extent that we need to invoke the rule of necessity, we will do that, and I will talk with them about the mechanics of that. But that is different than than Chapter 32B. And that is the end of my presentation, unless there are questions on any of that.
Counselor Schnapp?
Thank you, Madam Vice President. This is just a question so I don't forget it later on. You mentioned that there are 12 bargaining units between municipal and school. Are you able to do negotiations across, or are you only able to do it with the municipal and the school is separate?
Bill Cole, Human Resources Director. What we would do is it's called coalition bargaining, not to get too technical, but we're able to bargain with the entire coalition of the 12 collective bargaining agreements and the non-union employees. So there is a process. The superintendent is aware of it and would be involved, but we would do the coalition bargaining because it's easier to do one large group as opposed to doing 12 separate negotiations. Again, Bill Cole, Human Resources Director, thank you for taking up this issue and allowing us to come speak on it this evening, because it is a very near and dear issue to my heart, having been in this role for over 20 years. So the town's 50% contribution rate, which we've talked about, does put us in somewhat of a competitive disadvantage in the market. Particularly compared to surrounding municipalities, which would be competing with us and we'd be competing with them. For example, it's difficult to quantify the number, but potential candidates sometimes don't apply because they look at our website and see what our benefits are, particularly when it comes to the health insurance split, compared to other communities, which I'll talk about in a later slide. And then just to kind of put it in perspective, just doing a quick survey of managers, over the past 12 months, we've lost several candidates specifically due to our health insurance split because they identified it as the reason why they did not take the job. Others may have been that, but this was explicitly saying it was health insurance. So 6 candidates in DPW in mid and upper level positions, airport, 1 maintenance position, the police department, these are only officers, 1 lateral transfer candidate and 2 candidates with conditional offers. In talking with the chief tonight, there's been a couple of dispatch candidates that turned the job down because of the benefits, the health insurance specifically. And then really something of attention is just at the high school, the intermediate school, and Barnstable United, we've had 13 teacher candidates turn down positions because of health insurance. And then a large number of support staff as well. But the 13 teachers, I mean, it's critical to get those positions filled and get teachers in front of students. So that just kind of shows you the numbers that we've been dealing with. And the job market exacerbated it, but health insurance is placing us at a disadvantage. And then also it's a disadvantage for employees that are here. It does make it difficult for us to retain employees. Several departments have lost employees. I didn't get into specific numbers, but administrative services, public works, school department, police department, we've lost people to adjoining communities that the pay may be comparable, but they pay a much higher percentage of health insurance. So we are losing talent. And in the shrinking job market that we have, it's critical that we kind of grow our own and keep people on staff before we even start looking at bringing in people from the outside. So again, it causes an issue for recruitment, but it also causes an issue with retention as well. Just to give you a little bit of context, these are the employee contribution rates by local communities. not to do PowerPoint karaoke, as Mark Milne says, you'll be able to read it. But some of the competitors that we have recently lost, Barnstable County, 75%, we've lost some staff to that, to them. You go down the line, DY is at 60%, Monomoy School District 70%, Wellfleet 65%. If you go down, Plymouth is 80%, Sandwich is at 75%. So you can see that with us being at 50-50, it does create, puts us at a competitive disadvantage. So we just wanted to use this opportunity to kind of put that context out there, that these are the people we're directly competing with, never mind the private sector. These are the people that are just like us. So just to put that out there. So again, kind of quickly gone through it, but I welcome the opportunity to answer questions or to give more detail, if you'd like.
I'd like to just mention one thing, if I could, that, you know, as Bill Cole walks through his presentation, it occurs to me that it may be perceived that staff came to us with this issue, but that's not the case. Councilor Levesque and I went to staff and said, please drill out the numbers because we don't have enough bodies. We don't have the engineers we need to pull off this sewer project. You know, we're talking about a debt exclusion vote, but we have to get what's right in our house first, which means the most qualified people for the job. You know, Barnstable should be the best. It should be best in schools. Not yet, we're working on it. It should be best in the municipality. And if we don't have competitive rates in this, then I really feel like we're working at a major disadvantage and we're not doing our jobs as counselors. So I'll let others ask questions now. Does anyone have a question for Director Cole? Yes, Councilor Starr.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. My comment is just that this doesn't include the fire districts, and even in the town of Barnstable, and some of those are 70-30.
Right. Well, actually, some of them are much higher. Hyannis Fire is 95.5. But
Okay.
I did not include that in there because even though they are part of the town, they're not a direct competitor. We're not usually losing employees to the fire districts.
Okay.
But they range from 70-30, 80-20, depending on the fire district. But they were left out for that reason, not a direct competitor.
Right. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Lutke.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you did this. Thank you to both of you for doing this because, again, I talked about knocking on doors. When I knocked on doors last year, talked to quite a few school teachers who they struggle like crazy with this. And when I look at this, I'm really shocked. I mean, I don't know how we got where we are. We're at the minimum, but I don't know that the minimum is ever the best place to be.
Cost savings. That's how we got there.
Well, that's why I brought that up, because that's part of our strategy, and I'd like to see a workshop on some of the strategy pieces. You know, I think that might be helpful to work through that. And, you know, what does cost cutting mean? I mean, what does it mean? Does it mean we go to the minimum? Because then, you know, you get the minimum. So it's all part of it. And again, thank you so much for doing this. But I think this slide right here is very telling. Very telling. Thank you.
In an economy like ours now, people rush to private sector jobs. When the economy flips in the other direction, the pendulum swings, people run to municipal jobs. So we're in a situation now where we don't have a huge pool to pull from because everyone else is stronger than we are. Town Manager Els told me several times, prior to us asking for this information, no counselor in his tenure here had asked to examine these numbers. So it's important that we do it. It's timely that we do it. I mean, we are really like going through the wickets here with regard to the election. So there you go. Follow up for Councilor Lutke.
Just one more thing, and again, it's very telling that, you know, it was Governor Romney that created Mass Health. And I know when I gave birth to my twins and I couldn't work, I was on Mass Health because I had absolutely no source of income because I had to stay home with them. And to think that we're here in the state that really created Mass Health and the mandatory health and that kind of thing is again very telling that it's a long time coming to do this analysis.
Thank you. Councilor Rapcorsetti.
I just had a quick question about living in the town of Barnstable. Is it a requirement of all employees to live in?
No.
No. So none of the departments require that you live in the town of Barnstable to work in the town of Barnstable?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Schnapp?
Thank you. A number of years ago, municipalities had an opportunity to join the Group Insurance Commission, which is pretty much the state umbrella. All the state agencies and a lot of public agencies join. And I'm wondering, I see that 75% in a lot of these towns. Is that a reflection that a lot of those towns joined the Group Insurance Commission at that time, or is that just kind of the rates that they ended up with?
I think that's the rates that they ended up with because, to Councilor Lutke's point, we all started at 50-50 when the law was passed. Other communities, through a process similar to what's going on tonight, moved up off of that, and we had remained at 50%. So I think that's more of the function, is that they negotiated it because all of these, well, the majority of these communities are on the Cape Cod Municipal Health Group. So they are not in GIC.
They're not in GIC. Yeah. Okay. Was there any discussion in town at the time that GIC became, were there previous conversations about this that didn't lead to going with the GIC or anything else?
Yes. Actually, there's always an ongoing analysis of health insurance to see what's the best value and the best opportunity. So back in, I believe, 2011, there was a mandate from the state that municipalities either had to join GIC or change their plan to be, GIC-like, to kind of mirror the GIC plan. And at the time, the council voted to adopt GIC-like as opposed to actually going to GIC, and we did coalition bargaining with the unions at that point. So the analysis was done at that time, and it was determined that not to join GIC, but to take our plan and modify it to get close enough to GIC to be acceptable.
So you might need to help me understand how GIC-like can look like GIC when the percentages are so different. Was it just the quality of the benefits that looked, or the premiums that were being charged?
I believe at the time, and again, it's been 11 years,
Yeah.
well, roughly 11 years, 12 years. It was the plans that were offered, because we had offered Blue Cross and Harvard Pilgrim, and at the time GIC had limited plan offerings. So I think that it was looking at the benefits of the plan as opposed to what our premium split was. But I think the plan through the Cape Cod Municipal Health Group was deemed to be more advantageous to us as opposed to going to GIC.
Okay. Now, I know we haven't heard from Mark yet in
Yeah.
terms of what these numbers are going to look like depending on where we go. But would you be open to looking at GIC again to see, or would that be part of the negotiating thing to see if GIC has changed enough that it might be a more affordable way to get a higher premium?
Well, I think that, I would defer to Town Manager Ells, but I think that the town is always looking at opportunities to see, and we have done studies over the years looking at going to GIC. We could do that again, but I still think we should continue the negotiations if this passes to try to see if we can do something with the split, whether it's our plan or something else.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone on my left? Counselor Shaughnessy.
Thank you. I just wanted to highlight a couple things. Councilor Lugke had brought up cost savings as part of our strategic plan, and I just wanted to remind everyone that the heart of the strategic plan is quality of life. So if we can't bring in good quality teachers, police officers, engineers at our Department of Public Works, then if we can't provide services to the residents, quality of life will fail. The other thing I wanted to mention, Councilor Vice President Cullum had mentioned, leadership bringing this up, and I think in addition to that, when the Barnstable Police were so kind as to hold a session here to talk about public safety issues in Hyannis, one of the things that had come up was short-staffed. And, we got a lot of public comment about that, as if we were not giving them the budget to staff. And I know Chief Sonnabend sort of highlighted then that that was part of the issue, that he referred to these three candidates that they just had drop out. So I think it's important. And I'm shocked, since I always think of us as number one, no bias. I'm shocked when I look at this and go, Brewster, Chatham, Falmouth, Harwich, Orleans. I mean, we have to get back to the top on this, I think.
Councillor Mendes.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. As I mentioned during the strategic planning, this is exactly what I'm talking about. We're in constant competition with every town around us. And we have to stop thinking as a municipality and thinking as a business. This is competition, and we're losing, as you can tell. That's why we're losing people to all these other towns. So we have to kind of be focused, not only, serving our constituents and serving the residents of the town, but we have to also keep in the back of our minds, we have competitors. And competitors are DY, Falmouth, Brewster, Chatham, so on and so forth. If we don't do this, we're just going to keep on losing.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President. Finally getting it. And I thank the leadership, Councillor Cullum and Councillor Levesque, for addressing this issue. And I understand it, since Town Manager Ellis has been our town manager, that it has not been addressed for quite some time. Can you refresh me? What does GIC mean?
Group Insurance Commission.
Group Insurance. Thank you. Is there a vehicle or a way that the Cape can do a collective health plan working through the county, so that there isn't this disparity amongst the other towns, so we're not competing with each other, but that we can pool our resources for a better outcome for all the towns?
So actually, there is a version of that happening. It's the Cape Cod Municipal Health Group. How that works is that the communities, I think there's 54 entities, so it can be a water district, fire district, municipality. They have got together in a joint purchase group to use kind of economies of scale to get better prices from the plans. So where these numbers come into play is that group sets the 100% cost. So for the entire Cape that's part of the health group, it's all 100%. So round numbers, let's say $10,000. It's not, but round numbers. But each individual entity can set their own split. So the Barnstable, using the numbers, we're 5,000, 5,000. And Mark's going to talk about premium holidays to kind of get into that. But for basic numbers, 5,000, 5,000. But if you look at Monomoy, Monomoy pays 7,000, the employee pays 3,000. So it's the same plan, but each individual entity has the ability to set their own premium split. So we do get the 100% cost is lower because we're able to joint purchase. It's just that each individual sets their own rate or the split.
Anyone else? All set? Okay, let's move on. Here where the rubber hits the road here.
Mark's going to tell you how we're going to pay for all this. So.
Excellent. I love it.
I have the best job. Thank you, Councilors Mark Milne, Finance Director, Town of Barnstable. Just one additional comment on the Cape Cod Municipal Health Group. It's, I believe, the second largest purchasing pool in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, behind the GIC. And the reason it was created was to cost share, try to keep costs down for its members, the entity's members, and doing so allows more consistent pricing, and we all pay, as Bill said, we all pay the same premium. Every one of these communities you see on this slide are members of that, with the exception of the off-Cape communities. They all pay the same premium, but each community decides what percentage of the premium the employer will pay and what percentage the employee will pay. So it has helped us keep costs down by having this large collective purchasing group that has over, I think, 15,000 members that belong to it. That's individuals, employees. So the current health insurance contribution plan for Barnstable looks like this. As we've mentioned, employer-employee cost share is 50-50. However, current collective bargaining agreements that we have in place with our collective bargaining units provide for what we call premium holidays. So what that means is we shut the withholding off for health insurance deductions for certain pay periods for our employees throughout the year, and we provide 6 weekly premium holidays for non-school bargaining units, and they're paid weekly, so there's 6 weeks they don't pay for health insurance, and then 4 biweekly holidays for school employees. So what happens is that results in an effective contribution rate between the employer and the employee of 56.25 for non-school employees and 58.33 for school employees. So Barnstable's paying a little bit more than 50% effectively towards the health insurance costs. So we're a little closer to 60% than we are to 50%. However, that could be different in the year you're hired. Depending upon when somebody comes on board, they may not get those premium holidays because we pay them during certain months of the fiscal year. And if you get hired after those months where we shut that deduction off, you won't get that benefit. But if you're on the payroll come July 1st of the following year, you will get that benefit. The retiree group that we have does not receive premium holidays. They have to pay every month. So this is what our current participation rate looks like. We have currently, and this is a snapshot in time, this changes daily, we have 1,345 eligible employees that could take health insurance through the town. 750 are participating. About 56% of our labor force is participating, meaning the other half, or 44%, is getting health insurance elsewhere, probably due to they can get a better deal with a spouse's plan, for example. And the current average cost of the town's budget right now per participant is about $11,224. So here's the budget impact on if we were to change the split. Currently, these active employees who are participating results in a cost of about $8.4 million for us at that 50-50 contribution share with those premium holidays. If we were to go to 60-40 with that same census of 750 participants, the incremental cost would go up $358,000 approximately, and that's not significant because we're close to 60-40 now, so it's just a slight incremental cost. But when you get to 70-30, the cost of the health insurance jumps by another $1.8 million over what we're currently paying at $8.4 million. And at 80-20, it jumps to $3.3 million almost. There are also, in addition to this, there are currently 117 vacant positions that are eligible for benefits. If we fill those positions, and assuming another half of those take health insurance through the town, you know, it's another $660,000 of more health insurance cost at the 50-50 contribution rate. So we're up to almost $9 million, assuming half of those do take the health insurance at 50-50. Some additional cost considerations if we do anything. Again, the current average cost per participant is $11,224. Those numbers I just showed you don't reflect any future premium rate increases that may be voted on by the Cape Cod Municipal Health Group. The rate increase for FY24 was about 3%. It's been lower the past few years. We had 2 years in a row of 0% increases during COVID, and that's really because elective surgeries were halted and health insurance costs went down. And so, but historically, before COVID, we saw anywhere from 5 to 8% increases per year in the premiums that are charged. So inflation going forward will likely contribute to higher rate increases in the future. We expect the way inflation is going, it's going to impact the medical field. It's going to impact costs in that area. So it will probably come back to that 5 to 8% range in the future as a result of inflation. The other impact is the other post-employment benefit liability. This is a measurement of what the promise that we've made to our current workforce in their retirement, that they can continue to participate in our health insurance plan into their retirement, and our liability associated with that is $130 million currently. This is like the pension system liability that we have. However, the difference is this is only a paper liability. It's not something we have to pay right now. Even though we've created an OPEB trust fund and we're banking money to address this liability in the future, because it's good financial management practice to do so, it's just on paper. We're not mandated to contribute towards that by any state law currently. But that could be coming in the future. They mandated it for pensions back in the 70s or the 80s. They could mandate it for this once everybody's pension liability is paid off, which is probably around 2035. And then, of course, the other consideration is if we were to change from 50-50, what's our participation rate going to look like? We have 600 employees currently not taking health insurance. If we go to 60-40 or 70-30, we could see a significant increase in the participation because our plan may become more financially attractive for the people who currently aren't taking it. I think Director Cole recently had a conversation with the town of Dennis, who recently went to 70-30, and I believe 84% of their eligible workforce takes health insurance through them. They had a 70-30 percentage rate. There's no way for us to measure what that is until you offer it. We could poll our employees who don't take health insurance and see what they say, but that's not going to provide us a real accurate number, I don't think. And then finally, in the future, as we spoke earlier this evening with Attorney Nober, what do we do with the contribution rate for retirees and surviving spouses? Because right now, that's 50-50 for retirees, no premium holidays, and surviving spouses, we pay zero towards their health insurance costs. So a couple of other things to consider later on after you make this decision. So that completes my comments, and be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any comments or questions for Director Milne or anyone else, I guess, at this point? Councilor Starr.
Thank you, Mr. Milne. So the premium holidays, so it doesn't look like we're selling ourselves truthfully. I mean, if we're more than if we're 58, was it 58, 42? It would just seem like so the premium holidays. Why do you do that? Is that a way of keeping it away from the retirees?
No, we do it because we're by law, we're 50-50.
Oh,
so
I
we
see.
can't do it any other way. The only way we can try to improve the employer cost share right now is to offer our employees a premium holiday, but that has to be bargained.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions? Councilor Schnapp?
The assumptions that you provided doesn't make it seem all that expensive, and the extra $2 million that we put toward capital in our budget would easily absorb the 70-30 increase. But as you said, there's a lot of variables here, and I'd be curious to see what the swings would be depending on increased participation. So.
Is there a question?
Well, I just want to make that comment. Right now, the way we do our budget, the school budget does not actually hold the benefits. It's the municipal budget that does. And as you showed, the school employees are a much more significant pool of employees than the municipal. So would there ever be any, I mean, again, this is part of your budgeting. It's not part of our discussion tonight, but shifting some of that back to schools, the cost for benefits?
Budgeting the health insurance within the school department itself, as opposed to the fixed costs. Yeah. We used to do that several years ago.
Okay.
Every department carried their own health insurance cost within their appropriation.
Right.
And we managed it that way. But a council that sat here several years ago CFAC suggested, the council supported, and asked that we should reflect that cost collectively in a fixed cost budget, because then we can see what the true cost is. It's hard to see what the true cost is when it's buried within each department's budget. And so we took that guidance and we offered a budget up that reflected that, and that's how we've been presenting it for the past several years. But we can certainly go back the other way if a council wanted us to budget it differently.
Did you decide not to do a 75-25, just because
There's a lot of options. I chose
Yeah.
10% increments, but yeah, I could show you a 75-25 if you wanted to see what that looked like, or a 65-35.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have questions or comments? Councilor Mendes.
Thank you. Now, I'm not sure if this is a question you can answer, but I'm curious about it. In your opinion, for the long-term viability of the town and the services we offer, wouldn't we be better off, for instance, doing the 70-30 instead of continuously being short-staffed and not being able to provide what we're supposed to provide?
I think you're right. I don't think I can answer that on my own. I think
Yeah.
every department head probably has an opinion on that, because we all face different challenges depending upon the profession that we're trying to hire, and what their, and what the challenges they have in that particular area. But certainly, this issue has been cited by, as Director Cole showed, as a decision factor for people who are considering applying for the town, or have been offered a position, whether or not to take it. We've had people turn us down because of this issue, other issues as well, but this issue certainly. And we've had employees leave because they've gotten a better contribution rate on their health insurance than what we provided. So, yeah, it is definitely a issue in retaining and hiring, but it's not the only issue, but it is certainly an issue.
See, the way that I look at it is, I put it in the same category as housing, because if we're saving people money on the back end as far as benefit goes, it makes it easy to pay their mortgages and rent. So to me, it's in the same category, because if you're saving $300-400 a month on benefits, that can go towards cost of living. So that's the way I look at it.
And I just want to add something to that. I think this council's been very proactive in looking for housing opportunities, form-based code, a lot of things that we've been doing to solve the other major issue for preventing people from living here in Barnstable. So I'll allow Tracy Shaughnessy to speak, please.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that the splits above the 60-40 with the cross, the premium holidays drop out at that point.
That's right. For this illustrative purposes, I took the premium holidays out, yes.
Would they necessarily come out? Because it seems to me, since we're at a 50-50, that the premium holidays are a way as part of the collective bargaining process to sweeten the pot.
Yeah.
At what point, I mean, can we negotiate out of the premium holidays by saying?
We have to. We would have to negotiate.
Okay, okay. I was just trying to clarify, do they automatically drop out at those
No.
levels?
We would have to negotiate, yes,
But
yes.
we would like them to, if we increase. Is that the suggestion?
Well, for illustrative purposes, that's the way I showed it.
Okay.
Because if, we're a little under 60-40 right now. If we change the split, what would it look like without the premium holidays? Because it's just easier to illustrate it that way.
Okay.
And to Councilor Mendes' point about affordability, I think that's the reason why those were negotiated in, is to try to help our workforce put more money in their pocket to meet those bills by shutting off their health insurance deduction. It's another way for us to accomplish that.
Did you have a follow-up, Councilor Mendes?
The premium holidays are great, but when you're trying to sell somebody on a job, they're not going to really pay attention to that. They look at the bottom line.
And that's some of the feedback we've gotten.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So to my right, Councilor Starr has a comment.
Thank you. So just the 70-30 split, the cost increase would be $1.8 million, but that doesn't include the number of employees who might join into, who are eligible now, but that might join in, and it doesn't include the 117 vacant positions. So what would the top if we included all those, are we talking about 2.4 million or something, or?
For example, if we were to get 80% participation rate, let's say if we go to 70-30,
Yeah,
I don't have that number with me tonight, but I can give you that number, but it's going to be millions. Probably another 3.5 to 4 million when I run those numbers. Because going to 80-20 is 3.3 million at 750 employees participating. So if we go to 70-30 with 1,200 employees participating, it's going to be significant. But I did not run those numbers. I can run any number anybody wants to see. Just give me your
I'm just curious
the inputs,
because
and I'll give you the output.
Because if we assign the ability to negotiate this to the town manager, it's just going to come back as one number to us, right? So we're not setting any limit now, or he's
All we're doing now is giving the town manager the authorization to negotiate, but we're not setting a rate. You're not giving him the authorization to set a rate.
That would be for the executive session, the next meeting. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
So maybe we could flesh out those numbers for the next meeting. You know what, and include the vacant positions and the shift in employees who will jump in. I don't, just so we have a real sense of where the numbers are going to be. But we're not negotiating percentage. No. Yeah. I guess we leave it up to the town manager to pick a rate, negotiate a rate, and then come back with something that won't break the bank, right? So,
Well,
yes.
What's the purpose of offering better health insurance if people don't take advantage of the health insurance? Number one. Number two, when people come to work for the town of Barnstable, do they provide nothing to us? No. They are building our town into be a better place. So I think we have to think about human equity that we're building in addition to the costs associated with it. So 117 vacant positions in town. We're talking about $1 billion sewer project. We've got no engineers to do that. We lost DPW lost 6 people to other opportunities because we're not competitive. So I think instead of thinking of it as only a cost, we have to think about it as building a better community and providing a better community, much like we do with housing. It's the same thing to me, in my mind, along with what Councilor Mendes said.
No.
I'm just going to grab Councilor Schnepp really fast and then back over here to Mr. Atzlis. Yeah.
Thank you. I forgot my first question, but maybe it'll come back to me. But I think the bigger question is, and because I'm very supportive of this, it's a long time coming for us to, bring these rates up. No question about it, but I think the larger the number is, the more it's going to maybe have to be taken out of someplace else in the budget. I think maybe that's what Councilor Starr is saying, that, 1.82 million is something we could probably absorb in our 2.5% and all that. $6 million is a number that could have an effect of what do we drop? What's the trade-off when we, provide these benefits in terms of our programming or our capital? So, I think that's where that's a bigger discussion, and, but we're being asked tonight to just sort of delegate it, and, and with the hopes that you'll be able to come back to us in May or June with an operating budget that, doesn't take any hits and some of the things that we think are important. And that I do remember my initial question was, when would be the earliest we could implement this? Would this have to be something that would wait till next fiscal year, or could we change these participation rates in this fiscal year? Contribution rates.
Of course, that's subject to collective bargaining negotiations. So it could be done in this year, or it could start at the beginning of next fiscal year, but that's part of the collective bargaining negotiation process.
Just to add one more wrinkle to what you said, Councilor Schnepp, is that it's we're under pressure of time here
Exactly.
in order to make it happen. So, ask your questions now because we get a vote.
No, and part of the question is if a lot of what we're trying to do is improve employee recruitment and retention, if we're making a decision that doesn't take effect until a year from now, is there any way to kind of push that up so that we are delivering this sooner than later?
Yeah, so if you were to implement in this fiscal year, we would, of course, we're not budgeted for that, so we would have to come back to the council for a supplemental appropriation to fund that. And so that, if that's collectively bargained, it would be subject to council appropriation. So it's not guaranteed until you appropriate the money to pay for it. But that is a possibility that we could bring something forward in fiscal year 24.
I have another technical question. All right, here we go. So I'm not familiar with the world of collective bargaining. So my understanding, though, is there are contract periods, 3-year, whatever the contract periods for unions. So can you do a collective bargaining in the middle of a contract period to adjust the contracts you're working under?
Bill, you want to take that?
I think the short answer is yes. But just to kind of give detail, the school contracts are expiring this year. So the school will be going into contract negotiations shortly, probably sometime in the fall. Town contracts we're in the process of negotiating them. Even if they're in existence, we're going to have language in there that it's a reopener, which just would allow for this coalition bargaining to take place. So even though we may have settled contracts, we do have the ability to come in and kind of negotiate off-cycle collectively with everybody.
Councilor Atzelis, at long last, we've been waiting for you.
This is more of a statement than a question. So, I spent 12 years in the recruiting business, and without question, benefits package was the biggest attraction, next to salary, of course, in attracting and bringing strong talent and the best talent, and also retaining the ones that you have. So this to me is a no-brainer. I mean, 50-50 is archaic at best. That's being kind. I currently now work for a company that their motto is the agents are our clients, and the reason why they look at it that way is, in this case, I look at the employees of the town as clients. We're given the best resources, the best support, the best benefits, even though we don't have them in real estate, but you know what I mean, in order to be successful. And as it relates to this town, our employees, for them to be successful and to want to stay here and work and live and raise their family and provide the excellent service that we've become accustomed to as residents, we definitely need to do something here. I mean, I hate to bring the chief up again, but what the chief tells us resonates. What we hear about what's happening in the schools resonates. What happens here with town staff resonates. I mean, heck, the high school couldn't even keep the new AD for more than a year. He left because of housing, and so we need to do as much as we can to not only attract, retain the strongest talent that we can, and offer the best benefits package that we're able to. So something needs to be done, and I'll also say this won't benefit me because I'll be long gone by the time this is implemented. But I think we need to do something here. So that's it.
Does anyone else have any questions for the panel? Thank you so much for putting all this together. I know it was the yeoman's work, but we really needed to hear it. I think the feedback we got was good. We're going to take a 5-minute break to use the restroom, and then we're going to start with the orders of the day. This will be the first item up. I'm moving it. Yeah. taking his daughter. Counselor Atzelis, you want to join the party? Time to call people out by name. I might happen. Chris is going to do it. She's upset. Who are we waiting on? We're waiting on Counselor Ludke. Okay, I think we're back in session. Has anyone seen Counselor Ludke? Restroom, okay. Yeah. I might just need one more minute for the vote. Here she is. Okay, welcome back, everybody. So now we're at the point where we're going to start the orders of the day, but I'm going to move some stuff out of order because of the workshop we just had. So let's see. Councillor Shaughnessy, could you please read into the record new business item 2024-012?
Yes. This is new business, may be acted upon by majority vote. Item number 2024-012. Acceptance of the provisions of Section 7A of Chapter 32B of the Massachusetts General Laws, as read.
We have Attorney Nober here to clarify. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Good evening, councilors. Karen Nober, Town Attorney. So this item is a vote to accept the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 32B, Section 7A. This would give the town the ability to come off of the 50-50 split for the health insurance contributions. It would allow the town to pay more, but not less than the 50%, and it would be effective December 1st for the reasons we just discussed. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the rationale. Does anyone on the panel have any questions of Attorney Nober? Looks like no, so we'll move this to a vote. This is a majority vote. Everyone in favor of this, please raise your hand. Signify by saying aye. 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 That's unanimous. Councillor Atzelis, would you please read into the record new business 2024-013?
I will, Madam Vice President. This is an item of new business, item number 2024-013. Delegation of authority in determination under Section 19 of the Conflict of Interest Law regarding participation in decisions relating to a potential increase in the town's percentage contribution to health insurance costs to its employees. This may be acted upon by a majority vote.
Second.
Thank you very much. We have a first and a second on that. Is there anyone who has any questions at all of Attorney Nober after the lengthy and detailed presentation we just had? Please say no. Okay, good. This is decided by a majority vote as well. So all those in favor of this item, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, there's those two. Next on our list, another one out of order. I'm going to take a few more out of order. This one is 2024-022 under new business. Councillor Mendes, could you read that for me?
Thank you, Madam Vice President. This is item 2024-022. May be acted upon by a majority vote of the council. Resolved to approve the appointment of Christopher Ganella as the Director of Community Services for the town of Barnstable.
Second.
Excellent. Assistant Town Manager Clyburn, are you here to do the rationale on this, please?
It's my extreme pleasure to be with you this evening. I'm Andy Clyburn, the Assistant Town Manager, bringing forth Mr. Christopher Ganella to assume the role as the Director of our Community Services Department. Mr. Ganella has been the interim director since this past February. Prior to that, he was the Assistant Director of the Community Services Department from April of 2022 to February of 2023. And prior to that, he's been with the town for almost a decade. Since August of 2014, he worked in the Department of Public Works. I know that you all know him. He was here, has gone through the budget presentation, been here on a variety of different issues. I would entertain any questions you may have of me or Mr. Ganella.
Any of the councilors have any questions? Yes, Councillor Atzelis.
I don't have a question, just have a quick statement. I had the opportunity to work with Mr. Ganella on some items in Precinct 4, in particular the Centerville Playground. And just want to say he's been excellent to work with, very collaborative. He's always there when we need us, even when we have to find last minute someone to mow the lawn. He's been a great help, and I'll support this.
Thank you very much. Councillor Clark?
The town is lucky to have Chris Ganella working for us. Thank you.
Anyone else? Am I right? No? So we'd like to move this to a vote, please. This is decided by a majority vote. All those in favor of item 2024-022, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And welcome to the jungle. No, it was this one. It was out of order. Okay, I am going to take two more out of order. Let's see, it's 29. Councillor Clark, could you please read 2024-029 under new business? It is page 40. Thank you. I'm sorry to take you off guard.
Thank you, Madam Vice President.
Oh, really?
This is new business may be acted upon with a majority vote. (0223-029) approving a conservation restriction on 17 plus or minus acres of land at 0.946 and 948 River Road in Marston's Mills between Three Bays Preservation Incorporated grantor and Barnstable Land Trust Incorporated grantee.
Second.
Thank you. And so here for the rationale, we have Z. Crocker.
Good evening, Madam Vice President. Z. Crocker, Zenas Crocker, Executive Director of the Barnstable Clean Water Coalition. Thanks so much. I'll be quick. You guys have all had a very busy night, but this is an important component. And what's really not evident immediately is it's an important part of the opportunity to clean the water in the town of Barnstable, particularly in the Three Bays watershed. I'm going to give you just a couple of quick slides here. This is the Three Bays estuary. Everybody's familiar with it. The most troubled in the town of Barnstable, the third most troubled by nutrient overload on Cape Cod. These areas, and this particular area is fed by a river, a critical river, the Marston's Mills River. All of the most troubled estuaries on Cape Cod are fed by rivers. In this case, we have a unique opportunity because the headwaters actually includes a number of cranberry bogs, over 100 acres of cranberry bogs. The pollution, the nutrient overload, nitrogen, is not coming from the bogs themselves. It's coming from the groundwater that's highly charged because of septic systems that really do not remove nitrogen. There's a collection system, which essentially is these bogs. Just to give you an illustration of what the scientists, particularly Dr. Brian Howes, the late Dr. Brian Howes, looked at, this estuary has about 48,000 kilograms of nitrogen in it. A healthy system in this area would be about 25,000. About 8,000 kilograms actually transits these cranberry bogs. So what's particularly exciting is that we had an opportunity, thanks to the state, for a grant to purchase, and we were able to purchase 64 acres of these cranberry bogs, the heart of what will be a restoration system. That restoration system is likely to reduce a significant amount of that load. We don't know exactly how much, but it's going to be a very significant load. That could help us with the CWMP, and it certainly is going to help us with water quality in the estuary and in the town of Barnstable. And so these are the bogs that we're looking at today. We just noted, I believe, I'm not sure which one we did actually first. It was the River Road 3 parcels, and so that's on the left-hand side of the screen in a dark blue on my screen. It's about 17 acres, and so that's an important component of the system. And then, should I wait for the other one to be read into the record, or do you want me to just go ahead and talk through it here?
I think in the interest of time, you can read through it now, and then we'll ask questions if we need to after.
So the other item that's going to be read in a moment is for 110 Bog Road. That's just about 47 acres. And so that's the heart of the system that we will look to restore. The good news is we received $750,000 from the US EPA as part of the planning process. We have money that's been pledged to us by an anonymous foundation, another $800,000. The restoration itself is likely to cost $2 to $4 million. So we're well on the way to having more money come over the transom to help with this restoration. It will take several years. But here's the important thing. The water from this area reaches the Three Bays Estuary in 5 to 6 hours. It's probably the one thing that we can do that in all of our collective lifetimes could actually change water quality positively, rapidly. Nothing's more important than the expansion of municipal treatment, but that's going to take decades to actually impact and change the groundwater that enters the estuary. This could change in just a matter of years. And so that's what's on the agenda. So thank you very much. Happy to take any questions. Here's an image of what the project is likely to look like. On the top, some rough construction. The picture on the left, a year later, this is Tidmarsh and Plymouth. And then just a few years after that, the image on the right. What's fascinating about a restoration project like this is you actually punch through the existing cranberry bog mat. You reach the underlayment, which is peat, and seeds that are probably almost 200 years old actually bubble to the surface, germinate, and that's what we'll see here. We just went to Tidmarsh about a week ago, and they said that 97 or 98% of the plants actually were from that original seed bank. That's what will happen here. It's fascinating, very important. Thank you so much for your time.
It is fascinating, and I didn't have time or forgot to mention Janet Milkman, who's also sitting at the table here. I wondered if I could have an attorney come over and explain why this is coming before us, because it's not clear what the town of Barnstable's function is in this. Thank you. Attorney McLaughlin.
There we go. There we go. Sorry about that. The other color green. The simple answer on this is that the statutes that are involved here require, under all events, that if a conservation restriction is being created in a town, whether or not it involves town property, whether or not the town is going to hold it, and in this case, we're not going to do either, if we are creating a conservation restriction, the statute requires approval of the governing body of the town, in this case the council, and that's the only reason we're here. It's obviously a reflection because depending what the nature of the restriction is that's being created and on what type of property, it may take away taxable income from the town, and they want to make sure that the town has a seat in that discussion. So that's why we're here tonight, and the only reason.
Thank you very much for that. So that said, is there anyone on the board that has any questions? Yes, Councillor Ludke.
Yeah, it's kind of a comment. I've spoken about this before this board. This reminds me of the Coonamessett River restoration. And I know they had that exact experience, Mr. Crocker, that you mentioned, where plants that were 300 years old came back to life. And these pictures look just like it. If you haven't had a chance, please go take a look at that. It's just beautiful. And this really speaks to what we heard earlier with Felicia Penn's presentation, where water is right at the top of our residents' concerns with our town. So it's just so nice. And again, many of our discussions on strategy and budget, this all comes together in efforts like this. And when you talk about the money you bring to it to supplement the private money, it's an absolutely gorgeous, perfect example of what we should be focusing on here to help all of us. Thank you so much. Beautiful.
Thank you. And I want to make sure I shout out and give a lot of credit to our partners at Barnstable Land Trust who are going to hold the conservation restrictions. So I want to thank Janet and her team for all the work that they have done and will do. Thank you.
Thanks, Zee.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Councillor Cusack.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. And I just want to concur with Betty's remarks. This is wildly important work. It really is, for generations. I love that there's got almost like a Jurassic Park portion of it with bringing things back to life. I know that's just sort of a sidebar to the whole thing, but you guys are really doing some work that if you weren't doing it, really nobody would be. So thank you for the future generations, too.
Councillor Schnapp.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, and thank you both. I was fortunate to be at a presentation with abutters of this project, and guess what? I'm one of them, and so I couldn't speak highly enough of this project, and I think it's just going to be so exciting to see a return to a different natural environment without really changing, I think, you know, bogs are beautiful too, but I think that this is really going to accomplish so much more than just beauty, but also preserving it. So that's great. Thank you so much for bringing this to us.
Thank you, Councilor Schnapp. Anyone on this side? All set? Okay. This is decided by, excuse me, a majority vote. I'd like to move this to a vote, please. It's item 2024-029. Everyone who approves, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Almost lost me. Everybody's on board. Thank you very much. Councilor Schnapp, the next item on the list, 2024-030, page 75.
Yes, thank you, Madam Vice President. This is an item of new business that may be acted upon by a majority vote. Item number 2024-030, approving a conservation restriction on 46.92 acres of land at 110 Bog Road in Marston's Mills between Three Bays Preservation, Inc., grantor, and Barnstable Land Trust, Inc., grantee, as shown on a portion of Assessor's Map 045, parcel 017-001, as written.
Second.
So we have a first and a second. Dude, anything you wanted to add about this particular item, or are we all good?
No, I think we're all good.
Okay.
Thank
Does
you.
anybody have any additional comments for Mr. Crocker and Ms. Milkman, other than thank you very much for being stewards of the land and helping us preserve Cape Cod? Okay. That said, I think we'll move it to a vote, if we may. That's item 2024-030, excuse me. Please signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for your patience tonight. We had some big stuff to do. Appreciate it. All right, now we're back in the saddle. We're going to start with old business again at 2024-001.
Lindsay doesn't have to wait till midnight.
Lindsay, I'm so sorry. Councilor Rapker-Setti, would you read that in for me, please?
This is old business may be acted upon by majority vote. Item 2024-001, authorization to reallocate the remaining $36,714 of the Community Preservation Historic Preservation Funds granted under Appropriation Order 2022-035 for the restoration work at Sturgis Library to be used for the replacement of the failing climate control system at Sturgis Library, as written.
Second.
Thank you very much. So here we are with Mr. Lindsay Council, who always waits. I'm so sorry, but here we are. It's before 10.
Yes, that's a breakthrough.
It is really, isn't it? All right, let's hustle. We'll get you out of here at 10.
Thank you, Vice President Cullum. Lindsay Council, Chairman of the Community Preservation Committee. The background has been read on this. Unfortunately, the director of the library was unable to make it here tonight due to an illness, so we have no presentation. But this was really a request that is a result of a great amount of work that went into the previous construction. They were able to get some really close bidding on the work that was done at the library building. So they did have a surplus of $37,000, came back to us with another proposal that was thoroughly researched to use this $36,000 to improve their climate control and their system for preserving their artifacts. So it's really a great project. These folks have taken on a lot of work with that old building over there in Barnstable, so they're to be lauded for their efforts in the previous project and to take this one on. So if you have any questions, I'll see if I can answer them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Council. Does anyone on the town council have any questions of Lindsay Council? Yes, Paula Schnapp.
Thank you, and thank you, Lindsay. I think you mentioned it already, but the nexus with historic preservation is the climate control and the items that are being preserved?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else have a question?
I have a comment.
Oh, Councilor Starr.
I'm going to abstain. Can I
Okay.
do? Okay.
Yeah, you want to recuse yourself? Is that what you're saying? Or you just
Well,
want
it's
to
too
abstain?
late to recuse myself, isn't
Right.
it?
Well,
So
yes.
I'm
So
I'm not
yeah.
going to say anything. Okay.
Okay. We won't think any worse of you. Okay. All right. Good. I don't know.
I'm going to abstain because I'm an employee of Sturgis Library.
Okay. Is that
All right.
necessary?
Is that enough, or? I'll leave the room while you vote.
See you later. Get me a coffee. See you in a minute. We're down to 9. Okay. So I'm going to move this to a vote. This is item 2024-001. If you approve this item, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye, excellent.
Thank you very
Everyone but
much.
Gordon. Thank you very much. Do you want to hang out? We're gonna be late tonight, just like old times. Okay, here's item 2024-003. Mr. Cusack, would you read that in for us, please?
My pleasure. This is old business requiring a public hearing and a roll call, 2/3 full council vote. This is item 2024-003, an appropriation and loan order in the amount of $1,400,000 for the purpose of funding sewer lateral riser construction.
Second.
We have a first and a second, and we have Director Santos to deliver the news.
Good evening, Town Councilors. Dan Santos, Director of Public Works. Before I get into the rationale, I'd like to state that we have opened bids on this project already, and the bids came in significantly lower, and therefore it is the town manager's recommendation that the town council amend this item to reduce the appropriation amount from $1,400,000 to $850,000.
Second.
Councilor Atzis, I think, has a prepared statement on that.
On item number 2023-003, I'm just reading what I have in front of me here. Thank you. Excuse me, once again. Item number 2024-003, I'd like to amend the motion, or make a motion to amend the appropriation amount from $1.4 million to $850,000.
Second.
We have a first and a second on that amendment, if we can vote that up or down. All in favor of item 2024-003 as amended? Please raise your hand. I'm going to vote the amendment. I'm sorry. Yeah, I always confuse. Well, we're going to vote to amend. All those in favor of amending item 2024-003? There we go.
Aye.
Awesome. Everyone. Okay. So we're amended, and now when you're done with your rationale, we'll open the public hearing, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. So, this is related to sewer lateral riser construction, and I'm going to explain to you what that is, and I have some graphics that will do that. But basically, what this request represents is a policy choice. It's not really a technical question, but it's really about how we apportion costs in this project. The way that we've presented this is consistent with our design philosophy, and that is primarily that deeper sewers are always better when you have a gravity system, because it provides the most flexibility. This approach is consistent with our last sewer project in Stewart's Creek, where grinder pumps were provided where necessary by the project, and the cost was apportioned throughout the entire project equally. It also reflects a discussion that I had with you all on March 2nd, 2023, where we discussed this item. I presented our approach and how we were moving ahead with addressing the installation of risers. And subsequent to that discussion, we proceeded with 65 properties that hadn't already had their stubs put in from the sewer. We install risers consistent with that approach and recommendation. And furthermore, we have included risers where appropriate, when depths are such that they're necessary, in our other projects as we move forward. It was working. So I just want to show you where we're talking about. So this is the Strawberry Hill Road project, which goes from Gobles Beach up along Finney's Lane. And so all of the really, colors are really washed out on that, but the purple area is the sewer line, and the lighter purple shade adjacent to the sewer line are all the properties that are connecting directly to that sewer trunk main that go along it, and that's 228 properties. There's the yellowish you can see there, and maybe it's better on your monitors than it is up here. Yeah. Those are all the properties that benefit from, ultimately, from this project. So we'll have neighborhood projects that go off of these main lines, and they will benefit from this. So there's 2,100 properties there. So to show you what we're talking about in pictures, this is a cross-section cut of the road, and you can see this sewer main here, which runs beneath the road, and this is Vineyard Wind's duck bank, which in this case this is in the road, and house currently with septic system, and then this is the service main stub, or the service main going to the property line. And when we construct these projects, we bring the sewer stub to the property line, and then it's the homeowner's responsibility to make that connection. In this case, what we're doing is constructing a riser here, which connects to the sewer main service. And what it does is allow the connection from the house, so they abandon the septic system, and then they connect to this riser at an appropriate height. As part of our design decisions, when we first were designing this project, we decided, as I said a moment ago, deep is good, that the most flexibility for the most properties is by having the sewer deep. And because there are 228 homes that are connecting here, and we don't know the details of those homes. And it's typically not something that we do as part of these projects, is to get to every home and design every connection. That's left to them. So the deeper we leave the connection point, the most flexibility. So if the sewer's in the back of the house, comes out of the back of the house, or the topography for a particular property is low, then they can still connect by gravity, and we avoid installing a grinder pump. Grinder pump is simply a pump on each property so you can get up to the sewer if your septic system is too low. Problem with grinder pumps, and we like to avoid them, is they are increased maintenance and cost, and they need to be replaced. So it's constantly something that has to be worried about, whereas in a gravity system, it's just there, it works. Generally, don't have problems. Occasionally, you might have roots that get in there, and we have to deal with that, but those are years down the road. And just from a bird's eye view, what you see here is the sewer main, and with the stubs to each property, and here's the duct bank where the stubs go underneath. So just to give you a site picture of what we're talking about here. So financial statistics relative to this project, the total number of properties being served is 163. The cost per property, you can see the math there, is $4,908. The total number of properties served by the infrastructure installed within the Strawberry Hill Road project, which that was that yellow area, is approximately 2,100 properties. Well, why don't we know how many? Well, we say it's approximately because ultimately assessments are based on dwelling units, equivalent dwelling units. So there could be more connections on a property, and there are likely going to be more. This is just the number of properties. So if there's more dwelling units on a piece of land, then that number's going to go up. So the cost per property under general benefit, as you recall from our sewer assessment, there's general benefit and special benefit. General benefit is where the entire project is supporting the cost. In this case, if you divide the cost of the proposed project of $850,000 by the 2,100 homes, that's $405 per property. This would be assessed. However, because almost all of the properties that don't abut a main line, they're going to be in a neighborhood, the cost to bring sewer to those properties is going to be much more than it was just for these direct connections. So they're going to exceed that $10,000 sewer assessment for 95% of the properties out there or more. And so in this case, 1,872 properties already will be at the $10,000 max, so they will not be assessed the $405. That will be paid for by the general fund or other funds. The number of properties that don't exceed the $10,000 sewer assessment are 228. That's the 163, 163, I'm sorry, being served by this project, plus the 65 that we have already installed. So those 228 will be assessed the $405. So what happens if you vote yes on this project? 163 properties will receive a sewer riser. 228 properties will see their assessment increase by $405. That will net $92,340 to the town against a project of $850,000. So $757,660 will either be paid by the general fund or other funding sources that have been identified by Finance Director Milne in other briefings that you've been provided. So looking at an average property in this project, their sewer assessment, so these are the ones that are directly abutting the main, they're less than 10,000. Our estimate right now, based on our costs, there's a $6,500 sewer assessment. The average cost of a sewer connection is $5,000, and their total cost will be $11,500. That's under a yes vote. If we don't vote this appropriation in, those 163 properties will be responsible for making their connection on their own and will be responsible for the full cost of that connection. And you can see what the total average property cost will be. So there's the original $6,100 sewer assessment, doesn't include the $400. Sewer connection of $5,000, and what I'm calling a deep sewer upcharge, which we have gotten, our estimate is $3,000 under private contracting for a total of $14,100. And, sorry? Sure. And
Thank
that
you very
concludes
much for the
my
rationale.
Rationale.
Okay, so it's a public hearing, first of all. So are there any members of the public that are here to speak to the item? I see none in the chamber. Are there any in Zoom land?
There's no one on Zoom for this item.
Okay, fantastic. Let's open it for councilor comments and questions. Councilor Atzelis? I should close the public hearing. Let's do that. And then Councilor Atzelis.
Thank you, Dan, for the presentation. So if you can go back to the slide that shows, is early on, where it shows the diagram of putting the riser in, yeah, that one. So somebody made a comment during public comment that the reason this is happening is because of the duct banks from Vineyard Wind. So if the Vineyard Wind duct bank wasn't there, would this still have to happen?
The sewer is where it is because of topography and the system.
Okay.
The sewer, whether or not the duct bank is there, would be there.
Okay.
We made a design choice that we would leave the point of connection at that level at the property line.
All right, so it's not an accurate statement that the duct bank is what's causing this from the Vineyard Wind project?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I heard that during public comment, so I wanted to clarify, because a lot of times we're told that there's accurate information coming in.
So we may have, if the duct bank wasn't there, then our design, we could have had a design choice to put it at a different level.
Yeah.
We could have, but again, we chose not to. We chose to leave it at the point, and then that would be part of the homeowner's cost.
Okay.
And then as a result of interest on behalf of the council and constituents about additional costs, then we have proceeded to change our approach to provide risers to try to offset any additional costs and spread that among the entire project.
Okay, and then follow up, if I may. If we can go forward to the slide where you explain the assessment, right here. Oh, back, I'm sorry. Yeah. So again, this is more for clarification's sake to those that might be listening. The last two bullets, number of properties exceeding the $10,000 sewer assessment. So that does not mean that their sewer assessment's going to be, that they're paying more than the $10,000 assessment, correct?
Correct. They're capped at 10,000.
Right, okay. So I only say that because sometimes what's
Sure.
heard
Yep.
is different than what you're actually presenting, so I appreciate you clarifying that for me. Thank you. I'm out. That's it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Etzlis, anyone else on this side? No? How about this side? Councillor Ledke?
Yes, just to refer to Councillor Atzlis' comment, I was the one who said that inaccurate information during public comment, and I got that inaccurate information from the first paragraph of the justification, which says the project was designed and executed in coordination with Vineyard Wind Project. As a result of the sizable Vineyard Wind duct bank, it was necessary to install the sewer laterals to the properties deeper than they are traditionally constructed. And that's what I referred to. My question for you, Dan, is this something we're going to see as the project moves forward? I'm saying this is for this portion. Are we going to see this again? Will we come back and do the risers, or is this a one-off on this?
We have decided to install risers where the sewer is excessively deep in the future, either from natural conditions or if, in the case of future wind projects, there happens to be other duct banks, then we have included in our design program to install risers as part of the project.
That's what I say. Will it be part of it? We won't see this supplemental.
Correct. They'll be part of the project.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
And that's the most cost-effective way to do it.
Thank you, Councillor Ledke. Councillor Rep Cressetti.
Thanks, Dan. Explain to me why we amended it to 850. Have you opened the bids?
Yes.
Oh,
We
you
opened
have.
the bids yesterday.
You opened the bids yesterday, and they did not include the contractor that's working that handed you the proposal. They didn't.
They actually bid on it, and they were higher.
They were higher. Okay.
And they were the basis of
The 1 point.
our estimate. And we wanted to make sure that we had enough money, and that was the only number we had. And that's why we proceeded to have bids before this. Because first of all, if we now went out to bid, it'd be even longer for us to get the work done. So this works out very nicely.
What a discrepancy. Yikes. Okay. Thank you.
Pays to shop around. Councillor Schnepp, do you have a question?
Yeah,
or a
just
comment?
quick
I knew
just
it.
a
Go for it.
comment. Got my green light on. Thank you. Thank you, Dan. This presentation really goes soup to nuts in terms of the rationale. The pictures are great. The numbers are great. I think that the design philosophy of including the risers when the laterals aren't going to be up high enough for the homeowner is, sounds consistent with what we'd want. And I'm guessing that those risers, when they're put in initially, aren't going to cost $5,000. So that, we have a much higher cost because this wasn't done initially, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So,
Anyone else have any questions? No? Town Clerk Ann Quirk, would you mind doing a roll call vote for us, please?
So now we're voting on as amended.
Yes.
Okay. Councilors Atzlis,
Yes.
Clark. Yes. Cullum.
Yes.
Cusack.
Yes.
Rap Grissetti.
Yes.
Ludke.
Yes.
Mendes.
Yes.
Schnepp.
yes.
Shaughnessy.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
That is unanimous.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Councillor Starr.
I have a personal recommendation. Can we move up to 010?
Sure.
There are people in the
Do you wanna read it
there are
in?
people in the audience from Rosewood Lane, and
Okay, please,
they've been
yeah.
here all night.
Would
so
you read it in for
thank
us,
you.
please?
Yes.
Thank
This
you.
is old business. We're open for a public hearing, a roll call vote, 2/3 full council. This is number 2024-010. Appropriation and loan order in the amount of $75,000 for the purpose of funding temporary repairs to Rosewood Lane in the Village of Katuitt pursuant to temporary repairs to private roads program for certain private roads.
Second.
Excellent. This is a public hearing, and we're going to let
Thank you.
Director Santos walk us through it before we open that up.
Thank you again. Dan Santos, Director of Public Works. Chapter 174 of the Acts of 1994, as amended by Chapter 350 of the Acts of 2014, authorized the town to borrow funds to repair and improve private roads within the town. Under this program, the abutters to roads being repaired can be charged betterment assessments for 100% of the actual cost of repairs, which they can elect to pay in one lump sum or over a period of 20 years with interest. This road will not be taken by the town of Barnstable and will remain a private road. A majority of the property abutters to Rosewood Lane in the Village of Katuitt have expressed an interest in having repairs made to their private road, and 100% of the abutters have signed a consent and acknowledgement agreement for betterment assessment. The proposed work includes a 2-inch asphalt overlay of the roadway. Regarding financial impact, there is no cost to the town, as all costs will be recovered by betterments assessed to the abutters. The town will issue a bond to cover the cost of the repairs and use the revenue collected from the betterment assessments to make the annual loan repayments on the bonds. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the rationale. This is a public hearing, as I said before. Is there anyone in the chamber that would like to speak to it? I'm so sorry that it's taken this long. Please come up. Did you bring popcorn? We're hungry.
Good evening. I'll just be very brief. My name is Jerome Friedman. I'm the community representative on the Rosewood Lane project, and I appreciate your willingness to assist us in this matter. And in particular, I wanted to pay acknowledgement and compliment to Tunde Baker, who was the engineer at the Department of Public Works, who sort of shepherded me through the process over the past 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I have to say. Thanks for your consideration.
Thanks again for your patience with us. Anyone else wish to speak to the public hearing? No? Anyone on Zoom for us?
There is no one on Zoom for this item.
Okay, so we'll close the public hearing on this. Is there any councilor discussion of the item? Questions for Director Santos? None on my left. Yes, Councilor Starr.
So my question is, so there's a 2-inch overlay. Is there, I mean, you must sweep it ahead of time. Is there potholes that need to be filled first, or
Usually, if we need to do some fillers, we do that. Yeah.
crack sealing or something beforehand?
We generally don't need to do crack sealing, but
Okay.
we will level it if that's
Level it, yeah.
necessary. And
Okay.
there's a binder that's put down between the layers.
Okay, because if the road's in bad shape, just putting 2 inches on,
Well, this was the choice that made sense for this road,
Okay.
given its condition and the interests of the abutters.
Yep, thank you.
My question is, or maybe request, this is such a issue throughout the town. There's so many private roads and so bad of repair. And the residents, again, walking around my neighborhoods, a lot of them, they didn't have due diligence in when they bought their properties, didn't understand they were private roads. And now they're faced with it. I wondered if we could do one of those videos that we do so beautifully, where we do that, town talk, where we share how to do. You said, sir, that you were helped walk through the process. I think this could be really something for the public to understand how they can engage in this process themselves and make this work. So I would recommend that we put a video together, and with some guidance, perhaps you, sir, could be on it as a citizen that went through this. I'm just saying there's just so much need out there and desire. So many residents, said to me, what can we do about my road? And, I basically said you have to pay for it yourselves. But it would be a fantastic thing if we could work that. Thank you.
That's a fine idea, and I know that Director Poyant has been looking for material, and so we'll put that one on the list.
Here we go, Lynn. You got it. Anyone else? Councilor Rapcorsetti.
Thank you, and thank you, Councilor Starr, for pushing that up a couple of items. And the residents, and there's just a few on this road, which
6,
makes it a little bit easier because this program requires 51% of the owners to agree. It's a lot easier to get 51% of, I think, 6 or 7 owners, 6 owners, than it is, a lot more. So, but I commend you for doing this, and this will be let out, or will this be done in-house? this work?
No, we'll contract this.
You'll let it out, okay, great. So, and maybe in this fall?
Yes.
Great, great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Counselor Schnapp? Nothing on this? Okay. To my left? No one? Okay, this is a roll call vote. If the town clerk and quirk could help me with that.
Counselors Clark.
Yes.
Cullum.
Yes.
Cusack.
Yes.
Raffersetti.
Yes.
Ludke.
Yes.
Mendes.
Yes.
Schnapp.
Yes.
Shaughnessy.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Atzelis.
Yes.
That's unanimous.
Thanks again for your patience, folks. Thank you for using the program. We're all going to come skateboard when it's done. Okay, Counselor Schnapp, I'm going to give you the next two items because they're appointments committee things.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. This is an item of old business that may be acted upon by a majority vote. Item number 2024-004, appointments to a board, committee, and commission. That the town council appoints the following individuals to a multiple-member board, committee, or commission. Historical Commission, Robert Frazee as a regular member to a term expiring 6/30/2026. And Human Services Committee, Cherie Kay as a regular member to a term expiring 6/30/2024.
Second.
And I'd like to request a friendly amendment. We had a member who is an alternate to the Historical Commission who requested filling the regular spot. That's Barbara DeBasey. So we would like to offer to Mr. Frazee to be an alternate member to this commission.
I'd like to move to amend item number 2024-004 under Historic Commission to say Robert Frazee as an alternate member to a term expiring 6/30/2026.
Okay, so we will vote on the item as amended.
Do we have to vote on the amendment?
We have to vote for the amendment. Why do I always confuse that? Let's vote for the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment that Councillor Shaughnessy so patiently put forth? Aye. That's unanimous. Okay, so now we will vote the item as amended. Item 2024-004. All those in favor? Aye. We made it. Okay. Next one.
Next item is also item of old business that may be acted upon by a majority vote. Item number 2024-005, reappointments to a board, committee, or commission. That the town council reappoints the following individuals to a multiple-member board, committee, or commission. Human Services Committee, Stephen Zaros as a regular member to a term expiring 6/30/2026. Hyannis Main Street Waterfront Historic District Commission, Kevin Matthews as an alternate member to a term expiring 6/30/2026. And Waterways Committee, Paul Everson as a regular member to a term expiring 6/30/2026.
Second.
Any discussion on these items? Everyone all set? Okay. We'll move that to a vote then. This is item 2024-005. Please raise your hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. All set. Next item now, because we've skipped a few, is under new business. It's item 2024-017. Councillor Ludke, could you read that in, please? It's on page 19.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. This is new business. It may be acted upon, roll call majority. It's item 2024-017. Authorization to expend a fiscal year 2024 9/11 department support and incentive grant in the amount of $330,026 from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Public Safety and Security.
Second.
Thank you very much. We have Chief Sonnabend here at the late hour to walk us through.
Good evening, Madam Vice President, members of the council, Chief Sonnabend, Barnstable Police Department, to speak to item number 2024-017. This is a $330,000 $330,026 grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Public Safety. And basically what this grant does is it's our 911 support and incentive grant, and it pays for the salaries of our dispatchers that work in the dispatch center. So this is an increase this year of $60,000 over the grant that we got last year, and I want to say thanks to Ms. Alina Bevilacqua working with Ms. Ann Spillane. Because we have a co-responder model here with a clinician, that's where this extra money, we were able to get this extra money into this grant this year. So instead of $270,000, we got $330,000. So that money would go back in and it would cover the salaries of those dispatchers and the clinician out there working on the street.
Thank you very much. Any counselors have any questions for Chief? Comments? No one? Okay, we'll move this, please. This is item 2024-017. All those in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Councillor Starr, could you read item 2024-018, please?
Yes. This is order of new business, 2024-018, may be acted upon in a majority vote. Authorization to expend a fiscal year 2024 state 911 department training grant in the amount of $30,876.66 from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Public Safety and Security.
Second.
You're still here, Chief.
I did not
Let's
go
do it.
anywhere.
Let's do it.
Madam Vice President, members of the council, Chief Sonnabend, this grant in the amount of $30,876.66 from the Executive Office of Public Safety. It covers the training and necessary certifications of our 911 dispatchers, including their ability to perform emergency medical dispatch. This is a reimbursement grant for all training costs and materials and overtime. This would eliminate us having to use general funds to cover the cost of these trainings. If we did not accept this grant, then we would, of course, have to use general fund monies to cover these trainings because they are state-mandated trainings.
Thank you very much. Is this also Lena Bevilacqua and Ann Spillane?
Ms. Bevilacqua put this one together, too, yes.
Amazing. Excellent. Okay, thank you very much for the rationale. Anyone have a question? Paula Schnepp.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief. I meant to ask this at the last item, but is there specific training for the dispatch in terms of when and how to use the clinician?
There isn't specific training, but there are trainings on how to use it and how to integrate it and other stuff. But for some reason, I'm not sure the exact reason why, but the state has chosen to encourage people to use clinicians, that they're allowing you to get extra money through the 911 support and incentive grant to help offset those costs for those clinicians. Ms. Bevilacqua found out about it, applied for it, and we got it.
Great. That's good, that Lena. Anyone else have any questions? No? Okay, we'll move it to a vote then. This is item 2024-018. All those in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Looks unanimous to me. Back to you, Ms. Shaughnessy. Would you please read 2024-019 into the record?
No wonder I can't see. I have distance glasses on. This is new business, may be acted upon, roll call majority. Item number 2024-019. Authorization to expend a fiscal year 2024 State 911 Department Emergency Medical Dispatch Grant in the amount of $17,343.60 from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, as read.
Second.
We have a first and a second, and we have Chief.
Still here.
Still here.
Still here. Madam Vice President, members of the council, so this grant in the amount of $17,343.60 basically covers some contracts that we have. It's for our contract for our EMD, our emergency medical dispatch phone provider. It's Power Phone. They provide our services for that so our dispatchers can do their job. Cape and Islands EMS, they provide medical oversight for our 911 dispatchers and emergency medical dispatch program. We're required to have that by state law. So that covers that contract. And then it's the overtime cost. Every year we have to review a certain percentage of our emergency medical calls to make sure they're being performed properly and counsel the people that are performing those calls. So there's overtime costs associated with that, to do that every year to perform those quality and assurance inspections. So this grant covers those costs associated with doing that Q&A.
Thank you very much for the information. Does anybody have any questions of the Chief on this item? No? No one at all? Then we will move it. This is 2024-019. All those in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you.
Thank you
Lena
very
and
much.
Ann for us both for their hard work.
They do outstanding work, just
They do
like
outstanding
everybody
work.
else that works at the police department do a great job.
Yep.
I appreciate
Thank you very much. Councillor Atzelis, you're in the hot seat. Wake up.
2024-021?
Mr. Lawson's here.
Oh.
So,
Yeah, okay.
2024-021.
I'm
Okay.
with you.
Okay, good.
This is an item of new business. Item number 2024-021, authorization to expend a grant in the amount of $32,819.95 from the Stanton Foundation for capital improvements at the Barnstable Dog Park. This may be acted upon by a majority vote.
Second.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Good evening, councilors. Derek Lawson, Director of Marine and Environmental Affairs. The Stanton Foundation provides grant opportunities for canine programs, mobile adoption vans, and dog parks. Animal Control Officer Cindy Sherman applied and received grant funding in the amount of $32,819.95. The funds are to be used for capital improvement at the town's dog park. After speaking with many users of the dog park, we are proposing the funds to be used for seating and shade structures. We will work with DPW for sourcing and installation of these structures. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much for the rationale. Anybody have any questions for Derek Lawson? Councillor Clark.
Thanks to Cindy Sherman for finding this grant opportunity and saving the town over $32,000.
She did a great job with us. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Anyone else? Seeing none, we will move it to a vote. This is item 2024-021. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye. That's great. Thank you for waiting.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Councillor Mendes.
This is new business. Item 2024-023. Authorization to expend a fiscal year 2023 grant in the amount of $100,000 from the United States Department of Agriculture, Natural Resources Conservation Service for the evaluation and design of Long Pond Lower Channel fish passage improvements. May be acted upon majority vote.
Second.
It's a fish passage.
I'm not saying it.
Yeah, you are. You gotta say it.
Huh?
No?
Dan Santos, Director of Public Works. Town of Barnstable has been awarded a $100,000 grant from the United States Department of Agriculture's Natural Resources Conservation Service, and this grant will provide funding for the evaluation and design. The Long Pond Lower Channel is the portion of the Centerville River that extends from Pine Street to the Centerville River estuary. Anecdotally, this channel was hand-dug around the late 1800s for the purposes of providing a fish run into Lake Waquaket.
Unfair.
This portion of the channel is roughly 1,500 feet long with very steep sides and at some points a steep grade that can pose an issue for passing fish. NRCS, working with the Marine and Environmental Affairs staff, view this channel as important for conveying fish into Long Pond and Lake Waquaket. This funding would allow the town to further evaluate this run and develop designs for fish run improvements where needed. The NRCS contacted the town with funding availability to support the project. This is a reimbursement grant for $100,000, and the town must expend the funds up front and subsequently submit for reimbursement. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions of Director Santos?
I had a quick question. Does some of this 1,500 feet, it all goes through, does it go through private land? But,
For the most part.
yeah, but you can still work on it.
Well, we have to get.
If it's a
we have to
river,
get rights of access and easements and.
Yeah,
so
okay.
It's all part of the process.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Atzelis.
Yes, thank you, Madam Vice President. Thank you, Dan. Just for location, in my mind, is this the one you can see kind of across from where the, I'm talking about, the guardrail is? You look down, and it's kind of, it's dry?
Yep.
That's your time, that's the,
Yes.
okay, all right, thank you. I was always curious about that because I walk by it 5 days a week, so, all right, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for Director Santos? Fish passage. Okay, seeing none, we're going to vote on this. This is item 2024-023. All those in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Clark, item 2024-024, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President. This is new business, may be acted upon by majority vote. Agenda item 2024-024, authorization to expend a fiscal year 2024 Mass Trails grant in the amount of $300,000 from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for preliminary design of the Cape Cod Rail Trail Phase 4 extension in the town of Barnstable.
First and a second, Director Santos here to
Dan
tell us all
Santos,
about
Director of Public Works. Town of Barnstable was awarded a $300,000 Mass Trails grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in June of this year. The purpose of this grant is to fund preliminary design services for the Cape Cod Rail Trail Phase 4 extension. This supplements a $500,000 Mass Trails grant awarded to the town in 2022 for the same purpose. The Cape Cod Rail Trail is a 12-foot wide paved shared use path serving pedestrians and bicyclists. Phase 4 is proposed to extend the trail from Mary Dunn Road near the Hyannis Ponds Wildlife Management Area to Service Road at the Barnstable Sandwich Town Line, a distance of approximately 10 miles. The ultimate goal is to create a continuous regional shared use path spanning the full length of Cape Cod from the canal to Provincetown. The town is responsible for a 25% local match in the amount of $100,000. Previous land acquisition and design expenditures by the town for the Cape Cod Rail Trail Phase 3 will be used for this local match. Therefore, there will be no fiscal impact associated with the acceptance of this grant.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have a question for Director Santos on this? Councillor Starr.
So, starting with the $500,000 from the last amount of money you got, and then we're authorizing $300,000, but it's still preliminary design. This isn't the whole design. This isn't design of the whole, the final, the 100% design.
Right, because this is ultimately a $20 million project, and it will be.
Okay. So I know it includes the bridge over 132, or some way to get across 132.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be possible to break this section in two, and finish from 132 to the Sandwich Town Line, which would be a usable, easy section to build instead of, so we can and leave the bridge in the middle and leave it for later?
Well, to date, all the funds have been provided by the state,
Yeah.
100%, and we anticipate that's going to occur again. So we'd rather get on their slate as soon as possible to
For
get the entire amount
for the
done
whole
rather
amount.
than break it up. And, you know, they've indicated
Okay.
by this funding the design and then ultimately in the past funding construction on all the other sections that's how it's going to go. So
This is part of the.
if we were having to pay for it and we had to figure out how to pay, I guess I might
Yeah.
think about
Okay.
phasing it. But if it's going to be funded,
Is it part of the TIP program, the Transportation Improvement Plan for Cape Cod? It is, isn't it?
it's looked at, it's not exactly the same funds, but it's looked at by the MPO under that program.
Okay,
So, but it's funded separately.
okay, good. I hope we can.
So it doesn't,
Well, I
it
hope
doesn't
we-
take away from
Yeah.
funds for road work.
Okay, I hope we can move on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else have any questions for Director Santos on this item? Seeing none, we'll move this to a vote. This is item 2024-024. All those in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. That's great. Paula Schnepp, would you please read into the record and refer to a public hearing, item 2024-025? It's page 32.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. This is an item of new business referring to a public hearing on 9/07/2023. Item number 2024-025, appropriation order in the amount of $141,655 to supplement funding for the demolition of the Osterville Recreation Building located at 93 West Bay Road, Osterville.
Second.
All those in favor of moving this to, or referring this, I'm sorry, to a public hearing on 9/7/2023, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Fantastic. Councillor Rapcorsetti, could you please read into the record 2024-026?
This is new business, may be acted upon by majority vote. Item 2024-026, authorization to contract for and expend a fiscal year 2023 grant in the amount of $400,000 from the United States Department of Agricultural and Natural Resources Conservation Service for the design and construction of the Rosa Lane fish passage improvements.
It's a good
As
one.
written, as read.
Second.
And a second. Director Santos.
Dan
it's the
Santos,
fish
Director of Public
passage.
Works. The town of Barnstable has been awarded a $400,000 grant from the United States Department of Agriculture's Natural Resources Conservation Service. This grant will provide funding for the design and 75% of the construction costs, totaling up to $400,000. The town is responsible for the permitting and 25% of construction costs, totaling up to $225,000. NRCS, working with the Marine and Environmental Affairs staff, identified the Rosa Lane culvert as a point of restriction impacting fish passage. In the FY24 through FY28 capital improvement plan, the town council voted to fund permitting and design of fish passage improvements to replace the Rosa Lane culvert. The NRCS contacted the town with the funding available to support the project, totaling $400,000. The town is responsible for permitting and 25% of the construction costs. And our budget request for FY24 of $250,000 covers that permitting and 25% match. This is a reimbursement grant for $400,000, and the town must expend the funds upfront and subsequently submit for reimbursement. Thank you.
Excellent job. Does anyone have any questions of Director Santos and the second fish passage of the evening? I see no one. Let's vote then. This is item 2024-026. All those in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Very good.
Thank you.
Councillor Cusack, would you please read 2024-027 and refer it to a public hearing on 9/7/2023?
My pleasure, Madam Vice President. Yes, this is new business to be referred to a public hearing on September 7th, 2023. It's item number 2024-027, an appropriation order in the amount of $20,000 and the authorization to expend a grant in the amount of $72,000 from the Natural Resource Conservation Service for the purpose of funding stormwater improvements on Clamshell Cove Road.
Second.
We have a first and a second to refer item 2024-027 to a public hearing on 9/7/2023. All those in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Fantastic. Councillor Ledke, 2024-028 is all you. Please refer it to a public hearing on 9/7/2023.
Thank you. Item 2024-028, appropriation order in the amount of $130,000 and the authorization to expend a grant in the amount of $625,000 from the Natural Resource Conservation Service for the purpose of funding the Lake Elizabeth Fishway design, permitting, and construction project.
Second.
So we're referring item 2024-028 to a public hearing on 9/7/2023. All those in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Councillor Starr, would you please read into the record 2024-031 and refer it to a second reading?
This is new business, 2024-031, appointments to Board Committee Commission. Disability Commission, Patricia Erickson Taylor, as a regular member to a term expiring June 30th, 2025. Zoning Board of Appeals, Emmanuel Alves, as an associate member to a term expiring June 30th, 2024. This is the first reading being referred to a second reading on September 7th, 2023.
Second.
Great. There's a first and a second on item 2024-031, referring it to a second read on 9/7/2023. All those in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Great. Councillor Shaughnessy, will you bring us home, please?
This is new business, first reading, being referred to second reading on 2023. Item 2024-032, reappointments to a board, committee, commission. Council on Aging, Ella Rollins is a regular member to a term expiring 6/30/2026. Historical Commission, Barbara DiBiase, from an alternate member to a full member position to a term expiring 6/30/2026.
Second.
Excellent. We'll refer item 2024-032 to a second reading 9/7/2023. All those in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I tricked you all. There's one more, because I know you love it. Counselor Schnepp is going to bring us home.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. This is an item of new business that may be acted upon by a majority vote. Item number 2024-033. Resolve approving a letter to the Honorable Pete Buttigieg, Secretary of Transportation, U.S. Department of Transportation, in support of the Massachusetts Department of Transportation's application for funding through the Multimodal Project Discretionary Grant Program's National Infrastructure Project Assistance and Infrastructure for Rebuilding America Program opportunities.
Second.
As written.
So we have a first and a second. Who's providing the rationale for this? Are you, Paula, or is Attorney Nober?
No, I think I can just make a comment
Okay.
that support letter for the state's application for federal funding. Since we had a town council meeting tonight, I volunteered that the town council would also send a letter of support. And this was drafted by the state, and I believe it would be a good idea for us to put our support behind getting money for the bridges.
There we have it. Anyone have any questions about the effort? No? Then we'll take it to a vote. This is item 2024-033. All those in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Excellent. So I will entertain
Move to adjourn.
Okie dokie. Is there a second? Hello, Federal. All those in favor of adjourning? Aye. We're out of here.